with Sam Cedar.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Cedar.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Cedar.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, January 15th, 2020. My name is Sam Cedar. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Nomiki Konst will be in studio. And we'll be talking about the House transmitting the articles of impeachment to the Senate. Impeachment managers from the House named all Democrats, no Justin Amash. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Republicans are feeling the heat on witnesses. And a Lev Parnas document dump reads like a low-rent Scorsese script. Meanwhile, we are 2.5 weeks from Iowa, and it's every woman and man for themselves on the Democratic stage. 10 Republican senators look to buck Trump in signing on to the Tim Kaine sort of weak tea War Powers Act resolution, I should say. And Trump finally to lift the hold on $8 billion worth of Puerto Rican disaster aid. Or I should say Puerto Rico disaster aid. And a new federal drug data dump shows 100 billion doses of oxy and hydrocodone shipped over an 8-year period. That's 24 billion doses more than had previously been revealed. Seattle bans multinational corporations from political spending in their cities. Hello, Amazon. And the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, divests from fossil fuels. That's big. Lastly, an appeals court blocks that Wisconsin voter purge we had covered yesterday, but it's only for now. All this and more on today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start off with multiple apologies. The first is I should apologize because I am exhausted, and it will inevitably impact my performance today. We did not leave this office until about 12:15, 12:30, and my son had an earache, so there was very little sleeping that happened. The other apology is for why we left at 12:30 last night. At the during the course of the broadcast last night, in covering the Democratic debate from Iowa, we had Alex Perrine here as a special guest, and at one point, Virgil Texas from Chapo Trap House came by later in the broadcast, and then, as we were wrapping up the night's coverage, we were basically studio invaded. I mean, a home invasion, but this obviously is not our home, by the ruffians from Chapo Trap House, the entire crew. And
not the entire crew, but
not the entire crew, but like 4/5, 5,
Everyone
4,
but
6.
Felix came in at the end.
Who else was here? There was
Amber
a lot
was
of
here
people.
for a second.
And Amber was here for a second. And they bum rushed the studio. As you can see here, these are shots from our video production, and that is, of course, they drank all our whiskey. Is really what happened.
Surprisingly, Matt Chrisman poured a nice big glass of that.
Yeah, I actually. It's one of the rare times where I was literally aghast. And I've seen some things, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a stranger to people drinking large glasses of whiskey. I've just never seen it quite. I've seen people drink multiple glasses of whiskey, but I've never seen someone pour it with that much, and in one time.
We got to give credit where credit's due. Perrine drank a lot of the whiskey too.
He did too. That's true. But things got out of hand. And so I want to apologize to all of you. That video is available to our members. You can go to today's members post, and there will be a link to that video. So you can check it out. I think our coverage of the debate was good. By the second half of the debate, we started getting a little bit, drunker and a little bit more bored with it, I think. We're going to talk more about the debate with Nomi, but you can check that out if you're a member. I want to thank our members for your support. And you can become one of those members at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you go there, you sign up, you'll get access to all of the archives, and you get extra content every day. In addition to occasionally, we have an extra content.
It certainly was extra.
That was extra. And that was actually a lot of fun. I have a feeling that may happen more often going forward. But and you support this show, and we give you the free show, commercial free. You know the whole deal. So it's jointhemajorityreport.com. If you are one of those people who have sent us an email because you would like access to the fun half of the program and don't have the financial resources, just give us a little more time. We will get to it. We're digging those emails out. All right, and this one more note of house cleaning. This is pretty exciting stuff. As you know, Michael Brooks has not been in studio all this week. Now, a lot of you are like, okay, why is this week different than any other week? So he's not in studio. Why would you even note that as some type of happening? Well, this is one of those occasions. Well, let's face it. This is the only one of those occasions where Michael has an actual reason that doesn't involve some type of lie about his plumbing or something. And that is, Michael traveled down to Brazil. I'm not sure exactly where. Where was he?
I don't know.
I don't know what the specific location was. And he interviewed Lula. As Brendan described it earlier when we were before the show, this is like celebrating, this is like when your friend has a baby. So congratulations to Michael. As you can see in this picture, he is ecstatic, and Lula looks a little bit nervous. But I suspect that this was after the interview, and it seems that Michael was happy, in this picture.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a long, happy life together.
That's right. Yes. They make a great couple. And that Michael will be coming back. I don't know. I mean, he's probably already back, but I don't expect him to be coming on the show in the next couple of days because he'll need to rest up. But you will be able to check that out, presumably on TMBS. I would imagine next Tuesday, but we don't know the details on that. But so you can check that out on his YouTube channel. But be sure to pass this video around to your friends to let them know about Michael's thing, because we want to just show him. And we're just going to title this clip something that will be confusing with the actual interview. So there it is. There. All right. Let's. I want to get in. We got two big stories today. One is that the Nancy Pelosi has announced that they will be voting on the articles of impeachment later this afternoon, and they have chosen the impeachment managers, and they have been named. Also, of course, we're going to review the debate. Before we get to that, Donald Trump was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His first visit was in Ohio, correct? I mean, his first rally, which was a week or two ago in 2020. He is in Wisconsin. This guy understands where this election is going to be won and lost. And Milwaukee, of course, is Wisconsin. Milwaukee is actually the site of the DNC in 2020, and Ohio, of course, parts of Ohio, or I should say, and where did he have that? It was in Toledo. The reason why you go to Toledo to do a rally is because you're going to hit parts of Michigan in terms of coverage. And so Donald Trump understands where he's got to focus for this election. It's going to be, again, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. There may be a couple other states, but those are the ones that he knows he has to turn. Or I should say not turn, but keep hold on. Here he is, digging deep into the conservative playbook. As you may or may not know, in 2007, under the Bush administration, there was a bipartisan support for creating more energy efficiency. Why would one do this? Why would you want more energy efficiency? Well, because our energy, as it is now, is produced by largely, and particularly in 2007, by fossil fuels of some sort. And when you have more energy efficient appliances and light bulbs, that means you're producing less carbon dioxide, which means that you are not contributing or you're contributing less to the factors that are driving climate change. But conservatives felt that this was a major infringement upon our individual liberties to have inefficient light bulbs. And since those days, I don't know when it actually went into effect now. I think it was during the Obama years that it actually was phased in. We now have just incandescent light bulbs. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're far more efficient and they last longer. Or LED light bulbs, which are fantastic now. Initially, they weren't so great. They were a little bit of harsh light. Now they're great and they last forever. Not literally forever, but for a long time. But when your supporters are Republicans, it can still be an issue. And here's Donald Trump trying to make hay. Should we do? Yeah, let's do number 2.
Somebody said, "Oh, sir, don't mention the light bulb." You know, it's hard to make an elegant speech. I'm saying I brought back the light bulb. So the new light bulb costs you 5 times as much, and it makes you look orange. And I was more interested in the orange than I was in the cost. But you know what? If you want, you have it. And you know, the new bulb, I don't know if you see it, it's on there. It's a hazardous waste. That when that bulb ends, you're supposed to take it to a certain dump and gingerly put it.
Okay. That's a lie. There was the idea was that it's all going to be not LED, what do you call it? The fluorescent lighting, and that it was full of mercury and that it was going to be a problem, and it wasn't. And now the bulbs have been replaced by LEDs anyways, and it never said hazardous waste, and it was all a lie. But here he is. He's delivering his comedy routine about the orange. I mean, that is actually like his self-effacing comedy is an interesting turn. And he's getting looser and looser up there. Now, I wonder if he has taken artificial lubricants. But here
I'm
is...
struck by his aphasia in that clip.
Yes.
Like he can't think of Burns out. You
Yeah.
can't think of the word for when a light bulb ends.
When it ends. And the bulb ends. Here he is. He's going after energy efficient appliances in 2020. But I should tell you this, that Trump's administration, they reversed the light bulb regulation. It will boost energy costs by $14 billion a year. So you'll pay more for the light bulbs that you use because they're less efficient. You just won't pay more for the light bulb themselves if what he thinks will happen will happen. It will generate 38 million tons of carbon dioxide annually. Now, it's quite possible that this is like a situation like the cars, where he wants to lower CAFE standards, and the car companies, even with California not being allowed to maintain higher standards, just say, you know what? Not going to, no. Because eventually we know we're going to have to go back to here. And why would we go back to the inefficiency when we know we're going to have to go forward? Like, there's no future here. I mean, this is like the BlackRock story, where you have trillions of dollars that are being invested in fossil fuels, and they make a decision. We're no longer going to invest in fossil fuels because they know this is not the future. And it just doesn't make any sense. This is how demented the Republican conservative mind is.
They're hungry for the rapture. They don't care if the world ends. They want the world to end, so all us Jews can go to hell.
I want the inefficient appliances, please, Mr. President.
But I say leave it. It's so unelegant to talk about it, right? Right? Isn't it unelegant? I'm talking about dishwashers. Wait till you hear the next one. I'm talking about refrigerators.
Yay!
Probably won't in the State of the Union. I'll leave it out because I want to get praise for making it. You cannot make a brilliant speech where they say that was such an incredible, elegant speech if I'm talking about dishwashers, sinks, toilets, light bulbs.
I beg to differ.
But sinks, toilets, and showers, you don't get any water. They put restrictors on, and now they made them permanent. People used to take them out. They put restrictors on. Try going and buying a new faucet. You turn it on, no water comes out, right? We won't talk about toilets, but you know that's
Oh, by all means.
10, 15, but we don't talk about that. Because I've said this 3 or 4 times, the only subject they ever talk about is toilets, so I don't mention it. But how about the shower? You go into a shower, and I have this beautiful head of hair. I need a lot of water. And you go into the shower, right? You turn on the water, drip, drip, drip. I call the guy, is something wrong with this? No, sir, it's just a restrictor. So you're in there 5 times longer than you're supposed to be. You use probably more water, and it's a very unpleasant experience, right? So we're getting rid of the restrictors. You're going to have full shower flow. Full sink. Did you ever go to the faucet? You turn on the faucet to wash your hands, and it turns on so easy. It's like this, you know, because there's zero pressure behind it, no water. You go like that, the thing flips on, and whoa.
What's the deal with faucets?
Well, I had that Seinfeld's thing for you.
Sorry.
That is, I mean, he's doing a comedy routine, and
I want to get...
Here it is. Well, okay, I just sent it to you. But yeah, right. There you go. Yes, that was the one there. But that is, I think that's going to prove effective, and that is a hard thing to. He's getting comfortable with it now.
He's really good at speaking to Americans in the way that they're most empowered, which is as consumers. So you talk about like the wall, and it's all about the different types of materials we can do for the wall. And what's like a big purchase Americans make is their new dishwasher, their new fridge. He's speaking to them right. That's American culture. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. If I were him, I would not call attention to the fact that I've got toilet issues. I feel like there's probably garbage disposals in all the White House toilets at this point in time, considering his diet, and I don't really want to think about that.
Well, but I think that humanizes him to them. I think that he's just like our buddy. He doesn't think he's better than us.
Yeah, he eats the same shit that every American does.
He is going more populist with that stuff. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that stuff going in the future. Let me just, I get a couple ads and then we're going to have Nomi has entered the building.
I'm so sad Michael wasn't here to be traumatized by my toilet humor.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, folks, support from today's shows comes from Carry Uma. They're a direct-to-consumer, sustainable sneaker brand with high and low-top styles. They're good-looking. They're crazy comfortable. And the reason why I know you guys are going to like it, consciously made. They do it all. They have new, like old school design, new school ethics. Check this baby out. I got a pair of these. They remind me of my Chuck E. Cheese, but all due respect to that brand, better support because I'm old now. And they're just better looking. These are, they're leather. This is premium natural materials. They fair trade cotton. They source responsible from ethical tanneries for leather, suede, and natural rubber. And they even just launched a 100% vegan and carbon neutral sneaker. It's made with 3D bamboo knit, and recycled PET. The outsoles are made from sugarcane and a cork and organic mamona oil inside. Nuts, right? It has recycled and recyclable laces, threads, and labels. And better yet, Cariuma makes up for carbon emissions released during the transportation by buying carbon offsets and creating a shipping footprint of exactly 0. Like I say, folks, these are beautiful sneakers. I am now dressing more like an adult every day. It's taken a long time. But I don't like, I don't like fancy shoes. I like a pair of sneaks that also make me look like I'm not, trying to look like I'm a teenager. And it's a good feeling to know that my shoes are ethically manufactured, ethically sourced. And when they're shipped to me, carbon balance of net of 0. And for a limited time, our listeners can get an exclusive 15% off your first pair of Cariuma sneakers. Go to Cariuma, CARIUMA.com/majority to get 15% off today. That's CARIUMA, Cariuma.com/majority for 15% off. And, I don't know. Nomi, I imagined, I don't know if you've ever tried these, but as you know, it's New Year.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Happy New Year to you as well. I'll tell you what, Nomi, it is time for you to get comfortable with new bedding. Yep. Home of the internet's favorite sheets, Brooklinen has over 50,000 plus 5-star reviews and counting. They got bedding. They have, well, I guess, I'm having that aphasia now where you can't,
duvet?
They have duvets, but they have duvets and they have,
shams?
No, the heavy thing. What about
the mattress?
Comforters?
No, the comforters. Yeah, they have comforters. They have loungewear, towels. They have more. They have all that. No, it's awesome.
I really didn't get any sleep.
I did not get any sleep. But at least I was comfortable because I was on my Brooklinen sheets. As you know, folks, I have a weird living arrangement because of my divorce, and I have multiple sets of Brooklinen sheets in multiple locations, and
all in Brooklyn.
All in Brooklyn, actually.
Oh, how appropriate.
Yep, there you go. Now they have shower curtains and bath mats. That's where I'm going to get my next one. I got to wait for some of them to wear out, but I'm upgrading my towels. And they've even now launched ultra soft loungewear that makes you feel like you never left bed. It's a direct-to-consumer company, so you get all the luxury products without the luxury markup. Softness, comfort, essentials to help you relax. Brooklinen has it all. Brooklinen.com is the perfect place to hit refresh in the new year. Go on, make yourself comfortable, folks. Brooklinen is so confident in their product that all their sheets, Their comforters, I remembered, towels come with a lifetime warranty, forever. Well, for as long as you're alive. You get 10% off your first order and free shipping on the all-new sheets when you use the promo code MAJORITY only at brooklinen.com. That's Brooklinen, BROOKLINEN.com. And New Yorkers, if you're listening, you can get the internet's favorite sheets and more in real life. You can visit Brooklinen's first store in Brooklyn, in Williamsburg. That's right in your hood, right?
No, I live in Astoria. That's why it took me forever to get here.
She complains about it every time.
127 Kent Avenue in Williamsburg. Brooklyn, and everything you need to live your most comfortable life. And lastly, the Majority Report is possible thanks to sponsors like Skillshare. Anyone who goes to skl.sh, Majority Report 5, is going to get 2 entire months of totally free access to Skillshare's entire library of thousands of online classes. Skillshare is an online learning community for everyone from creatives to freelance to business owners to people who just want to get better at your hobby or learn a brand new hobby. Skillshare classes range from illustration, painting, graphic design, photography, video editing, web design, bookkeeping, marketing, productivity, everything in between. They have video lessons that help you learn at your own pace. You can fit in any schedule. They break it down almost into like chapters. But I guess I don't know if they call it chapters, but it's like chapters. So you can look at 2/3 of a lesson and then head in later. Whether you're already a master at what you do or you're just getting started, their classes are for all skill levels. I have taken classes like just to get an overview. I don't want to spend too much time doing it, but stuff like the Excel spreadsheets. I know. I just want to know. I like to have a basic knowledge of all operational things. Don't look at me like I'm crazy.
Don't know how to use Excel spreadsheets?
Well, I didn't know how to do like a sum thing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know. Yeah, I mean, I know how to like open it up, but I didn't know how to like.
I was a little concerned here.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I didn't know. I had never. There was no occasion for me to do that, but that's how I learned, and it's basic stuff. But there's also stuff that gets you even more. Like this is what's in my queue, as it were. Becoming an Instagram influencer, creating authentic content, and monetizing your following. Now, we have an Instagram channel, but I just want to get a basic notion so that I can talk to our artificial intelligence bot that does all the Instagram stuff.
Really? You don't do it?
I don't
You're
personally
killing
do
it.
I don't do it. No,
Lately,
no.
it's been really good.
No, it's our bot, Dorsey.
Automation. I want my UBI.
There you go. And also I've got lined up a graphic design basics, core principles for visual design. Why do I want to know that? Just because I have no sense of design. And having just an ability to look at this and say, this is good or this is bad, I want to be able to do that. And you can make 2020 a year where you explore new skills. You can deepen your existing passions. You can find new ones. Skillshare makes it easier than ever. Like I say, most classes are under 60 minutes. They're split up into individual chapters or lessons. So it's easy to fit in a couple of lessons, in the morning and then come back at night and pick it up, and it's easy. You don't have to pay per class. Membership at Skillshare gives you access to each and every class that they offer. You'll never run out of ways to fuel your curiosity. And the best part, a membership is less than $10 a month. But Majority Report audiences can enjoy 2 free months of membership. And then with full access to all their classes, when you go to skl.sh/Majority Report 5. That's the number 5. We put the link in the podcast notes or under the video if you're watching on YouTube. Check it out. That's skl.sh/Majority Report 5. That's the number 5. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, in studio with us, it is a pleasure to welcome back to the program Nomiki Konst. Nomiki, welcome.
Thank you for having me. And I'm so sorry I'm once again late.
That's all right. No.
I think I'm going to put in like an hour and half, 45 minutes to
we got to get you a helicopter to get over here. That's basically, I think, what it's coming down to. All right, now let's we're going to touch on impeachment in a bit.
Yay!
The articles are heading over there. There's been this stuff with Lev Parnas is nuts. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely nuts. But let's talk about what's going on with the debate and what happened with
Handshake
Bernie.
game?
Well, yeah. Should we? Let's. I mean, I guess. Look, we've talked ad nauseum about the exchange between Bernie and Warren in regards to what they said. There was a reprise of it. Do we have a clip of that as well from last night? All right, let's play that first. This is we anticipated. I would say to their credit, CNN held off. They waited the 45 minutes. Now, of course, on the West Coast, that's the heart of prime time.
I feel like they know the sweet spot. I was thinking about this last night. Like, there's a sweet spot. They bore everybody to death in the beginning because it was really boring. And then
the Iran stuff, I thought, was interesting. There was a couple of things up front where I was impressed. And maybe we can pull this from about 14 minutes in when Bernie talked about the mistakes of Vietnam and Iraq, because it got very quiet. And that was a very sort of like intense moment. But let's do we have that? Okay, well, let's play this then. Well, this is the one that everybody anticipated, and it didn't go exactly as CNN, I think, imagined, or this questioner did, because she didn't seem to listen to the answer in any way. It was very odd, but here it is.
Senator Sanders, I do want to be clear here. You're saying that you never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election.
That is correct.
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
Oh wait, okay, that's we don't have the full clip. Prior to that, Bernie had said, of course, Hillary Clinton got 3 million votes. I held back last time to wait for Elizabeth Warren to come into the race, which is certainly I was aware of that. I think we've mentioned it on the show over the past couple of years. I think, to the detriment of his campaign, frankly, but at that time, Warren had all the heat and she decided not to step in. Give me your take on the whole kerfuffle, not just the fact that CNN basically said, we're not going to listen to your answer. Right. I mean, that was just bizarre and so bizarre that we'll play a clip in a minute about that, but.
Well, I mean, I don't want to dwell on the CNN, what's happening at CNN, right. But I will say that they don't even internally have it right. On one hand, you have people saying, well, it was reported out. It's a report. So if it's a report, it's true, which as somebody who's been the recipient of a report, I can tell you firsthand that, a lot of news organizations now don't have fact checkers, don't run things through legal, or just don't care. But with that being said, you still had Anderson Cooper, you still had Aaron Burnett, come out and say that it was a he said, she said, it was fed by the Warren camp. In many ways, these are hosts of CNN who have a little bit more power to do so, saying, yeah, okay, it was a report, but it's not entirely verified. So they're not going to attach their reputations to some story that seems to have gotten out of hand. Now, with all this being said and done, it's disappointing. I think we're at a state in the movement, not necessarily just the campaign, but in the movement where we have to be very aware that not everybody is our friend. And I don't mean Warren. I mean people who might work for Warren, people who might be advising Warren, people who may have endorsed Warren or are helping out. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some entities that supported Warren that have independent expenditures who are pitching out negative stories that she might not even be attached to, because there's been some evidence that even internally in the Warren camp, they didn't agree with this strategy.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that, maybe people were left out of the conversation, but it seems like they threw a hand grenade not to win, because as of right now, Warren's path to victory, even as a second choice in Iowa, is not the strongest. And if you did want to have a path, it wouldn't be by pissing off the very loyal Bernie supporters.
Okay, all right. I have a theory. Now, I happen to agree in terms of its efficacy, and I spoke about that yesterday. But and in part, the what happened afterwards has changed my opinion slightly. Let's play that clip now. This is the handshake.
Okay.
And here it is. This is at the end of the night. Warren heads over to Bernie, and Bernie extends his arm, to shake her hand, and she blows it off.
That's some cold shit.
And she's like, I want to talk about something. And he says, you and I can talk. We'll talk later about that. And then Tom Steyer comes rushing over.
He was a perfect person for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect person.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you guys in the middle of talking about something? So I have an alternate theory, and it's a slightly, it is a different one from what my take on this was yesterday, which is that this was just, broadly, I think it's a mistake. I don't think it's helpful for Warren. But I have an alternative theory about what their strategy is, and that is, one, they wanted to show that she will fight, and the reason why she wanted to show that she would fight, and some people are saying stick a knife into Bernie or whatever it is, and I don't think it, frankly, is going to be effective.
Right.
I don't think the idea is that she's looking for Bernie supporters.
No, not at all.
I think the idea is she wants to show those people who support Biden, but like her more as a candidate, but think that a woman can't win, or that she's not tough enough to go with. I think she was trying to communicate that to the Biden and Buttigieg voters, who she is their second choice, and unlike the people for whom Bernie supporters, when Warren is their second choice, it's because of ideology.
Yes.
When you're a second for Warren, if you're a Biden or a Buttigieg supporter, and Warren's your second choice, there's a higher chance that the reason is because you don't think she can win,
right?
And you think that Biden or Buttigieg can win, and so I think that she was trying to communicate, and this was the only way. Who am I going to take out? And I think this was her way. I think that she is thinking she's going to get supporters from there. I think she might be thinking, I think her campaign might be thinking that it's really going to be more of that she's going to take people from Biden and Buttigieg first, and strengthen herself going into the campaign. I don't know if that's going to work or not.
Right.
Because I think on that particular issue, frankly, all you're doing is sort of like raising the fears that you're not really fully addressing them. Yeah. But maybe, I don't know. That's my only theory as to what they're doing, because this is a conscious effort. I mean, I've been talking to if not the same people that you have, but at least, sort of like hearing those same things. That this was, they had no control over those 4 people who came out and spoke to the press, that they were just responding to this, and that some people, certain people have been isolated and they're only listening to a certain group of people, which I think is true. But I just think those people have a certain theory. And I think, it is crunch time, and they're trying to figure out where they're going to get support from. And I think you're starting to see a couple stories today that are talking about they want to prove that they can fight. And so, look.
I mean, that was her messaging last night. If you think about it, she was saying, oh, well, there's 2 women on stage who have beat Republicans. And again, I don't even know how effective that messaging was. What's blaringly obvious to me at this point is that her team is really, really ill-equipped for this kind of strategy. Agree. You just basically ruined a progressive senator's reputation with the movement based on some cockamamie scheme that has a 2% chance of even effectively working. And maybe the alternative is, if it doesn't work, she lines up with Joe Biden. She is literally, let's just be honest here, she is doing Joe Biden's dirty work. Joe Biden is winning right now. He's going down in the polls a little bit, despite what he says. He's winning right now, and yet he was not questioned at all.
Well, that's true
by anybody.
Well, I mean, Bernie did a little bit in terms of Iran and Iraq, but Bernie also didn't go after him. I mean, look, they're all. I mean, this is the same thing that happened with Trump. Like, you be the guy to take him out. I don't want to take him out. I don't want to alienate his voters, and Bernie doesn't want to do that. Warren doesn't want to do that, and so that. I mean, I think projecting that she is going to make this calculation that she can fight. I think this is by design. And I think I don't think it's necessarily like a sister soldier thing. I just think that they should have found something else.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's cheap.
Yeah, this is why people hate and mistrust Washington and all the barely human insects there. Like, I reacted to this story on a human level, like most people probably did, and thought, oh, I can't believe that Bernie's friend would stab him in the back like that. I didn't even think of the real explanation until Sam told me this morning, and I was like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense. But they're operating so many levels removed from any normal mode of human interaction that people would recognize.
And Iowans don't like this kind. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Iowa, but they're they don't like this kind of game playing at the end of the day. But will it move 2%? Will it? I mean, I think she's going to lose just as much support as she gains from Biden world. But, you mentioned something really interesting because I was watching, the morning shows and late night last night, and all the surrogates out there who are pouncing on Bernie and suddenly supporting Warren, the Karen Finneys of the world from the DNC. These are the folks who we were fighting in 2016 with the smear efforts. They're the ones who knew very well that the lies that were coming out of their mouths were lies.
Yep.
And here they are again, just recycling the same talking points from 2016. You could literally clip them back to back. This is Karen Finney in 2016. This is Karen Finney in 2020.
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that. Karen Finney was on
cue. Look at that.
Karen Finney was on Jake Tapper's program, and this is their attempt. Now, I don't know if it was effective last time. To be honest with you, I don't know if it was. Maybe it was, but I don't know if it was. I just don't think it's going to work in the same way this time. Right. And so, but this is, here's Karen Finney on with Jake Tapper.
It's not just about what may or may not have been said in this conversation. Bernie came into
Pause it for
this
1 second,
race-
too. Let me just say one thing about this conversation. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. When this first came out, I tweeted out that I have talked to many people, but mostly women, who some supporters of Warren, some would-be supporters of Warren, who articulated to me at various times over the past couple of years a fear that a woman in this environment against Donald Trump cannot win, that he has some special powers of activating misogynistic feelings. I think that is true, that misogynistic feelings, I think a woman can win in this environment. But the idea that Bernie would have articulated that to Warren is not to me, is not that controversial. Rebecca Trasta wrote a very good piece on this in New Yorker, excuse me, no, in the Cut, and she made the point, which I had also made the point the other day, which is that this centers, and it's unfortunate. People who are, the subject and victims of misogyny, by talking about it in this context, they center this misogyny and they raise those same fears. I mean, that's why I think they should have done, if they're going to go after Bernie, they should have done something different.
Right.
Because this is, it cuts, raising this cuts both ways. You're reminding these voters why they're afraid of supporting you.
That's right.
And
it's the Streisand effect.
Yes. And if you don't have a really excellent closing answer, all you've done is basically edified their position.
Right.
And so I don't think they didn't fish. It was not fish nor fowl. They didn't get there. So they're trying this, or at least Karen Finney is, and I don't think that's going anywhere.
It's not just about what may or may not have been said in this conversation. Bernie came into this race with a bit of a legacy. The Bernie bros were known to have been horrible to women online. I know plenty of women who would say things like, there were secret groups of women who didn't want to have to deal with the Bernie bros, so they didn't want to engage online. And the Bernie bros, again, they're pretty obnoxious, and they're very sexist and misogynist. So part of it is, it's part of the reason why when he endorsed Cenk Uygur and then had to pull that back because of those comments. I mean, he did come in with an impression, and a lot of women still feeling pretty raw from 2016 about the fact that, he didn't stand up for Hillary or have her back or campaign for her, I think, as vigorously as he could have. But also, he never really took on the Bernie Bros and said, let's calm down a bit.
No, that's not true. I interviewed him and I did ask him about the Bernie Bros, and he said nobody should be saying things like that. Nobody should be doing things like that.
But he didn't say it in French.
That is not the same thing as saying you should not be threatening people. You should not.
When it comes up, he mostly ignores it. But you're right. When confronted by a respected journalist, he says the right thing. But I think it's just that Bernie generally, and I'm going to, doesn't.
Hillary Rosen
thinks of this as identity politics. It's the same way he doesn't engage people of color. He doesn't really engage women. He doesn't think about the country that way. He thinks in terms of class, not in terms of other demographics. And so
Hillary Clinton's surrogate
that he
panel
said
with
that
2 Republicans to talk about the progressive base of the primary. What?
I feel like this is very triggering, especially for me and Nomiki right now.
Oh my God. I thought Nomiki was going to have a heart attack. It was like, this is...
I'm having PTSD.
I know, I could tell that.
This, okay, in 2016, at least we had Bernie people on the panels.
Right.
We don't have that. And Warren is a cover because you have people like Van Jones who they're like, I remember being in the room with the talent person at CNN and she said, well, we have Van Jones. And I said, that's great, but he's not of course he loves Bernie. But last night he was defending Warren. And as long as Warren is in the race, they have their progressive to represent the progressive side.
Right.
But here we are with 2 consultants who have literally made millions of dollars off of Hillary Clinton and attacking Bernie Sanders on that panel, not disclosing that. These are not commentators. These are not journalists. These are people who make money off of tanking the movement.
That's so whack.
Yeah.
That should not be allowed. In a healthy democracy, that wouldn't be a thing.
But, here's why I don't think this is, I think this is going to fail. Because no one what Karen Finney, none of the people that Karen Finney is talking about are supporting Sanders right now.
Right.
And even if they're supporting Biden, which I think is what the target audience is, right? We're going to get these, Buttigieg and Biden supporters who have Warren as their second choice, and we want to move it into first choice. They're still not. They're not. All they're doing is identifying a problem, and they're not. That's not enough to get them because those people have already identified the problem. They have not provided the sort of like bridge. Now that we're in the circle of trust or whatever it is, the communication, the comms thing that they tell you to do. Now that we're in there, we share the same vision of what the problem is. They haven't offered the bridge.
Can you explain that? I don't know if people get that. The circle when you're
the
messaging.
One of the messaging things that they always tell you to do when you go on a TV show, if you're like an advocate for something, is to sort of acknowledge, to find some connection so that the viewers say like, oh, they understand my problems or they experience things like I do.
Like the light bulbs.
Like the light bulbs. Like, yeah, those light bulbs are a pain in the ass, aren't they? But, and then you can say, now that we've all agreed they're a pain in the ass, but I'm going to tell you why actually they're good for you. Or, my mom struggles with paying for healthcare, just like your mom. And here's why. Now that we're on the same page, here's my solution.
Right.
They're not doing the second part.
Right.
And all they're doing is triggering the first part, which in this instance is what's inhibiting, Warren's campaign. So I don't think that's going to work.
Oh, I think it's awesome. I miss 2016. I want to go back there. The more people act like they did in 2016, the happier I'll be.
I'm literally have PTSD right now watching this. It's very triggering. But just real quick, something to remind, what that her real thing that she has to close right now. The people that she's trying to woo over from Biden's team and Buttigieg's team that could be friendly are still the same people who think that she cannot beat Donald Trump. She's the only top 4 candidate who, in a head-to-head matchup, does not beat Donald Trump right now. And we have to keep that in mind because this is the same team, as you and I both know, that has been the Warren team that has been pitching, a coalition of electability to end, to fix the electability argument. She has not bridged that gap on the electability argument. And it's not, maybe it's a little bit because she's a woman, but I think it's frankly because she botched her DNA thing and it was
self-inflicted wounds. And I think there was a self-inflicted wound on the Medicare for all thing. Like, I think that she supports Medicare for all, but they needed to make it into this sort of kludgy thing to sort of, I don't know, I don't know who that was for.
Right.
It was useful for Klobuchar last night.
Well, yes.
Exactly.
I mean, but that's the thing is like, I don't, again, it's neither fish nor fowl. Klobuchar can say that you still have these wild-eyed ideas, and then other people can say like, why did you do 2 steps? That's not going to work. Like it doesn't make any sense. The pay-fors also didn't really do anything.
No half measures, folks.
They went after Buttigieg about disclosing his stuff. That it was successful, and maybe it hampered Buttigieg, I think, a little bit. But one of the things I think they're all learning is that like when they go negative on somebody, there's nobody who's been able to go negative and come out unscathed.
Right.
And I think certainly it seems like Bernie is sort of adhering to that.
Except for Biden. I mean, the foreign policy stuff.
He didn't go.
He didn't.
Let's play that clip of.
Well, I mean, just as a campaign. I mean, they've been pushing stuff out.
Without a doubt. I mean, I was talking specifically about in terms of the debate. Oh, but wait, before we leave that, here. This I found sort of disturbing. Let's go back to this one moment with Morning Joe, where they actually talked about.
This is amazing.
Yeah. Play the full clip so that people get the context. But
Mika's not your lefty feminist. So that's something just to keep in mind. Oftentimes she turns on.
Right. She doesn't like uppity women.
Despite writing books on feminism, she's not, a big Me Too fan.
She doesn't. Yeah. She doesn't like uppity women, I think is really the part of them.
Senator Sanders, I do want to be clear here. You're saying that you never told Senator Warren that a woman could not win the election.
That is correct.
Senator Warren, what did you think when Senator Sanders told you a woman could not win the election?
I am completely confused as to why it turned from Bernie Sanders saying I didn't say it to Elizabeth Warren being asked, what did you think when he said it? He says he didn't say it. So you turn to Elizabeth Warren and say, did he say it?
Bizarre.
That's the issue.
That was bizarre.
I mean, it's bizarre.
It was.
What the heck happened there? Are they listening? Because you got to listen when you do a debate.
Yeah.
And then take the question to the next candidate.
You just missed.
It was a miss. Yeah.
You were waiting to go.
But
Did
this
he
is
say
the
it?
story.
It was a miss.
By the way, I've had conversations, private conversations taken to the press and totally manipulated for the benefit of the person who was sharing the story. This happens all the time. It's clear there's a misunderstanding or Elizabeth Warren is focused on something that was said. And Bernie Sanders is not going to be someone who says, I don't think a woman could win. That's just stupid.
Right. It would not be smart.
Especially after 26. You just didn't say that.
Also, Bernie went to her in 2015 and said, hey, I think you can win. I think you should run for president.
This is a terrible issue to bring up.
One more point about this. Okay, even if he did say it, which he didn't, I'm not even going to entertain that, actually. Forget that. Why would she wait until now to have a fight over it? Why would she suddenly be so mad at him that she does not shake his hand when she was palling around with him before? If she was so mad about this, why did she have to wait to release it? Or forget about even releasing it. Why was she, I mean, if you're like that mad at him.
Well, I don't think she's that mad at him. I don't think that's the way they're trying to play it. I think to a certain extent.
Didn't shake his hand.
Well, yes.
That's some cold shit.
Well,
I think Netanyahu's hand.
I think look again. I think she's trying to show that she can be tough, and this is what they're doing. And sadly for the campaign, it was the only thing that they could find. And they were, they did this off of the script that was going around, which. The campaign, we should say, the Sanders campaign disavowed that script, and then it turned out it was actually the script that it was given. The campaign was responsible for that script.
But who cares? Every campaign has them. Non-story.
Absolutely.
Alex Thompson should be called out for this. What kind of reporter are you?
Exactly. Well, they were trying to, hype it. I mean, this is what campaigns do, and I think. Either the Warren people needed an inciting event that's why I think this was all very targeted, and it does not make any sense that they thought they were going to get Bernie voters out of this.
Right.
I think, again, they're just going after Biden and Buttigieg voters, and we'll see if it works.
Yeah, they know the Bernie voters are not changing their minds at this point.
Well, yeah, I just think that, a tame notion that he questioned whether a woman could win in this environment when everybody knows the backstory between the two of them, I think is just... It's not about convincing Bernie voters. It's about, and we'll see if it works. If it works, then they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work, as I suspect, then they don't care about the scorched earth, and they're bad at their jobs. Well, and frankly, I agree with you. I've seen this sort of like litany of things, and people got to remember, in 2018, when she came to when they had that conversation. And it was reported at the time.
2015?
No, 2018, when they had the conversation.
Oh, this conversation. Sorry, I got confused.
It was reported at that time that they were meeting.
Right.
And I think that had the DNA stuff not happened, it's not inconceivable to me that Bernie would have been like, you run. Yeah. I mean, it certainly at that time, it wasn't inconceivable to me.
He held off for a while.
And I mean, he was building up. I mean, I think he was like sort of like, making sure that he was ready to commit if he was going to commit. But it's also quite possible, and I'm speculating here totally, that he didn't want to say, you botched the DNA stuff so bad that's why. He could have said, like, I think in this environment, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Well, it was very early on when she did the nevertheless she persisted thing. She started selling gear, and she brought on Clinton advisors. So, there's a personal relationship between them, but you are a reflection of your campaign. Your decisions you make, the people you bring on in every campaign, they have a certain methodology, and you're taking advice from them. And so as much as they might be friends or were friends back then, she made a conscious decision to bring on some pretty unsavory people to give her advice, early on in the race. And that's why I always say follow the money, because you can see what's the signals, where they're going to go early on by who they hire.
Well,
and
she
they're
is
in charge of what happens in their own campaign.
Yes. And she is actually sort of, I don't know if she coined this, but she is closely associated, particularly like with the CFPB, that policies are personnel, or personnel are policies.
Right.
And so
That's right.
It is what it is. I mean, that's for me, I don't get that invested in the idea of like she was mean to Bernie or she, backstabbed him or anything like that. Like, if it was my candidate who was backstabbing somebody because it was going to help them win, go for it. This is not, maybe I'm hardened from decades of watching Survivor on CBS. But I think what the worst part about this for me in terms of my thinking about Warren is that I do not think that she is particularly strong when it comes to electorate-facing politics. Right. I think there's every reason to believe that she is very, very good at playing institutional politics.
That's right.
Because I think there's a lot of evidence to that effect. But I keep seeing indications that she's not strong when it comes to doing public-facing politics. And I think this is indicative of it.
The point was just brought up about the WFP, who I've, used to be friends with, and then they went after me, and I'm just, sorry, but that's what happens in politics.
Right.
They will go after their own if they, institutions, organizations, especially organizations that appear to be grassroots but actually are top down, will make these kinds of decisions. And I think organizations like WFP and PCCC are now in a really difficult position because their financial support, their voting support, if they're Democratic at all, is really aligned with Bernie. And they supported Warren, and now they're getting pushback. And so, my guess is they were probably left out of this conversation. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, actually, I don't know. Knowing some of the people there, if they were part of this. But at the end of the day, they need cover. At least publicly, they need cover in that they have to at least appear to be progressive and not agree with this and make it sound like there were 4 people in the room who made this decision without them knowing.
I'm going to make a prediction that if Warren comes in 3rd or 4th in Iowa, and then, only comes in second in New Hampshire. We're going to start to hear stories by, let's see, mid to late February. We're going to start to hear stories of like
what happened.
It's Joe Rossbar's fault.
Yeah.
This
Yeah, of
basically
course.
what we're going to start to hear. And so, but we'll see.
So I just want to reiterate, this is kind of the same thing I said with Cenk. Even if Bernie had said something sexist, like the majority of men are sexist. I don't care. I'm balancing this against my material interests, and I'm going to vote for the candidate that's going to get me health care.
Yeah, but I don't think that, I think that, the point is that all the people who think that already, this is not for them.
Right. And why even give them that? Because, entertaining that argument, Cenk tweeted something out actually like that the other day, and I respectfully disagree. Why even entertain their argument? Why even repeat it? Why give them that? That's what they want you to do. They want you to go down the rabbit hole and get stuck in this space and solidify the Bernie bros. And, I'm joking about the Bernie bros, but that is the evidence they now take to. That's step 3 in this process. Right. They go on CNN, complain about the Bernie bros, get all the Hillary loyalists riled up.
Use the reactions as the way to maintain another day of this news.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do we want to watch Klobuchar Rick Perry it before we move on?
Oh, yeah. Let's. This is. Klobuchar got confused as to where she was in her notes. And then I want to do Bernie's rock thing, because that was, I think, in terms of moments that I took away. We should also say, well, go ahead. This is Amy Klobuchar this is on the, what do you say to people who think a woman can't win the election?
Michigan has a woman governor right now, and she beat a Republican, Gretchen Whitmer. Kansas has a woman governor right now, and she beat Chris Kobach. And her name is, I'm very proud to know her, and her name is Governor Kelly. Thank you.
Oh, Governor Kelly.
I would add to this.
She did get it.
But she said thank you. It's like somebody
Just
mouthed
in under
to her.
the buzzer.
Yeah. That happens. That happens to me probably every 15 minutes on the show.
Comforter.
Yeah. But
it's just it would have been especially bad with the script of "I'm proud to know her name."
Right. I'm proud to know her.
I specifically memorized the name.
I'm surprised they were allowed to bring notes on stage. She was reading from her notes, unless she was writing it on stage.
They could be writing on stage. Because Warren did say at one point, like, I've been taking notes on what we have not been talking about.
Steyer had weird X's on his hand too. I don't know what that was about.
Oh, that's just the way he. That's the way he's signaling.
Like some billionaire.
Steyer,
that's how
like,
they know not to serve any
anecdotally
drinks.
on Twitter and on, I've been reading, like, Steyer, did himself some favors. He was drafting behind everybody. It seemed like, to a certain extent. There was a lot of like, I agree with Bernie and I agree with Warren. And I think that to me signals that he is setting up a run for Senate in California. Because he's, I agree with the two people who are going to probably come in, first and second maybe, or in California. So,
although his answer to, be prepared for this, for you may be running off of fossil fuels. What is this?
Wow, that is weird.
He's straight edge.
Billionaires, man, you can't trust them.
What is that going on? That's got to be some type of like numismatic, like memory technique.
Yeah,
type of
I think
thing,
so. Like four corner, you got four finger.
Right, hit the quads, hit the quads. But why wouldn't you just put like a Q?
Remember when Sarah Palin did that? She had it on her hand, the notes on her hand. Do you guys remember that?
I do not remember that, but that's hilarious.
Why wouldn't you put it on
in
your
her debate
palm?
against Joe Biden had notes. I can't remember what it said on there. Like, remember your name.
I wonder if he's sending a message to Putin. All right, so let's listen to this one clip. To the extent that Joe Biden was involved in this debate, it really only happened here. And I think, and we should say that the less Joe Biden is involved in a debate, the more he has won.
Yep.
And short of there being these moments where he seemed to be searching for what he was talking about and his typical jibber jabber that he gets into, and, he just keeps jawboning in this cadence that you just basically tune out and just assume that it has some coherence. So Biden did, mission accomplished for Joe Biden. He got through another debate. and no disasters. I mean, I think, there was probably all of his advisors. That's what they all text each other in the group text, or, whatever their signal channel is.
He
or
didn't
whatever
forget
it is.
his daughter's name.
No disasters. Mission accomplished. This moment was really, impressed me. Just as a moment. There was nothing, I don't know that he said anything any different here, Sanders, in terms of our involvement in the war, but the way he delivered this, or the way that there was a quality, this is indicative of a quality that he had last night that I felt was slightly different. There was this sense, and maybe it's because there's a certain amount of confidence that the campaign has right now in terms of where they're positioned. Because, their whole theory is that we have votes that will not be seen by pollsters.
Right.
Because of our organization, because of the nature of our campaign, not just that we don't just have a ground game. We have a fundamentally different campaign that has been attempted in the past. And therefore, if we're doing it right, our polls should reflect 10 points, 5 points, 7 points, 12 points. I don't know what the number is they have in their head. Our polls should be a certain amount less than we actually have. And so I think there's a certain amount of confidence, and he seemed a little bit more confident than normal. And this answer was indicative of that.
Before I tell you that, let me tell you something else.
Can we go back just a little bit?
Yeah, the question.
We can't. Okay. All right. Because CNN asked some specific question, and he said, "Give me 1 second," and that's what he did.
And that is, and I don't know if my colleagues here will agree with me or not. Maybe they will. But what we have to face as a nation is that the two great foreign policy disasters of our lifetimes were the war in Vietnam and the war in Iraq. Both of those wars were based on lies. And right now, what I fear very much is we have a president who is lying again and could drag us into a war that is even worse than the war in Iraq. To answer your question, what we need to do is have an international coalition. We cannot keep acting unilaterally. As you know, the nuclear deal with Iran was worked on with a number of our allies. We have got to undo what Trump did, bring that coalition together, and make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon.
There was just something about his cadence there, and the idea of stating, of going back to Vietnam on some level, and working that in, and seeing that, and sort of attempting to look to his colleagues for, like, I think we can all agree on this, and stay. I don't know. I don't know what it was about that.
I wish he'd done one thing, though, and I remember thinking this in the moment, that if he could just add one line that illustrates that he is the only candidate on that stage who has a fundamentally different take on foreign policy. Right. He mentioned interventionalism, but at the end of the day, he is, that's why he feels confident. First off, he knows it very well. Second, he's been, fighting this, whatever his foreign policy ideals since he was a teenager, essentially. And frankly, I think this was right after Warren spoke. Her despite sitting on the Foreign Services Committee, which is shocking to me, she was so weak on that answer. Do we have that clip at all? It was like somebody was, asked to go on a talk show and was like a different expert, and then brought in to talk about foreign policy and had to, jumble together a bunch, like a Cliff Note version.
I don't know.
Do you remember
that?
She's afraid to take a stand on it.
It was very weak.
I had it at 17 minutes past the hour. Well, that was her talking on the troops.
Yes, and then Biden he couldn't hold back, and he corrected her on troops. He said, well, what kind of troops are you talking about? Combat troops? Or he was basically like, could you be more specific?
Yeah.
I don't know if that came across to the audience, but maybe I'm just watching a little bit more carefully.
All right. Well, we got to head into the fun half anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
And we'll look for that clip as well. When we get into the fun half, we're going to be talking about what's going on with impeachment, and we're going to end up talking about impeachment more on Friday, I have a feeling. But we will touch on it. We're going to touch on it at least where we are, because it's important for people to start digesting what's happening with this Lev Parnas stuff, because unless this is some type of like bizarre rat F, this is very explosive material, and it's very hard to imagine that. I don't know if Pelosi knew this stuff was coming down the pike or whatnot. I mean, they were waiting on Parnas's ability to sort of release these documents and other legal things, and I think as that came closer. But right now, there are some Republican senators who I think are very nervous, because there is at least some documentary evidence that suggests that Lev Parnas was part of essentially a conspiracy or a gang, if you will. I don't know, with Rudy Giuliani and a guy who's running for a Republican office in Connecticut, who were literally targeting. And I don't mean just in a way that, like, you target a campaign or you target a demo or something like that. Literally, we're surveilling, stalking, and taking a threatening posture towards our ambassador in Ukraine. And when you start to piece together some of these things, it sounds like the State Department, when they gave her a warning that she needed to get out of there like within the next day because you're in physical danger, that physical danger was actually coming from this gang.
Administration too.
And there's also evidence in these documents that Rudy Giuliani claimed that he was speaking on behalf of the president, and more. I mean, it's crazy stuff, and it hasn't gotten, with all the hubbub, like this is the kind of thing that would be.
This is a movie.
That's how I pitched it at the beginning of the show. It's like sort of like a cheaper Scorsese script. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, and Nomi and I will discuss these things and more. Just a reminder, you can support this program by becoming a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you get the free half, free of commercials. You also get extra content. Like the fun half coming up, or like things like last night's debate coverage when the Chapo Trap House gang came in and stormed the studio and nearly tore it apart and got us kicked out of this building.
Are there any whippets left?
Yeah, no kidding. It's all on the floor.
There might be some ketamine crumbs in the bathroom.
Don't forget also, it is the AM Quickie. You can subscribe to that at amquickie.com, or you can get it through the app, and justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Follow Nomi at where do you want?
Nomi Key Const on Twitter.
There you go.
Well,
let's wait. Okay. And Jamie.
This week on the Antifada, this episode is out now. I speak with Leslie Lee III from Struggle Session about Bong Joon-ho's beautiful and subversive masterpiece, Parasite, which I encourage everyone to see if you haven't yet, and then listen to our episode about it. Also, if you enjoyed Matt Christman's cameo on our stream last night, you'll definitely enjoy History is a Weapon, wherein Sean KB and Matt Christman just nerd out over history and help you understand things in a way that you maybe didn't before. Did they tell me what this one is about? No, but it's coming out next week and it's going to be awesome. Patreon.com/theantifada.
Literary hangover. Alex and I talk about the Sotweed Factor, a 1708 poem about the Chesapeake area and how it's all run by sort of tobacco farmers and legal scammers, and how Annapolis was a swamp back in the day.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half. Left is best. Jamie and I may have a disagreement.
Yeah, you can't just say whatever you want about people just because you're rich.
I have an absolute right to mock them on YouTube.
He's up there buggy whipping like he's the boss.
I am not your employer.
You know, I'm tired of the negativity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. You're nervous? You're a little bit upset? You're riled up?
Yeah, maybe you should rethink your defense of that, you fucking idiots.
We're just going to get rid of you.
All right.
But dude, you want to smoke this joint?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a dinosaur?
Some good shit.
Exactly. I'm happy now.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now listen to me. 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 847-906-501-457. 2, 38, 56, 27. 1 half. 5 8s. 3.9 billion.
Wow.
He's the ultimate math nerd.
Don't you see?
Why don't you get a real job instead of spewing vitriol and hatred, you left-wing Limbaugh?
Everybody's taking their dumb juice today.
Come on, Sammy!
Dance, dance, dance.
Rand Paul.
I had my first post-coital scene with a woman. I'm hoping to add more moves to my repertoire. All I have is the dip and the swirl.
Fine, we can double dip.
Yes, this is a perfect moment.
No.
Wait, what?
You make under $1 million a year. You're scum. You're nothing.
Excuse me? Fuck you, you fucking liberal elite. I think you belong in jail.
Thank you for saying that, Sam. You're a horrible, despicable person.
All right, gonna take a quick break. Take a moment to talk to some of the libertarians out there. Take whatever vehicle you want to drive to the library. What you're talking about is jibber jabber.
Classic. I'm feeling more chill already.
Good. Donald Trump can kiss all of our asses.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Andy. You guys ready to do some evil?
Hitler was such an idiot.
That guy might be a Nazi.
Agreed.
No.
You. Yes.
Wow.
Wow, that's weird. No way! Unbelievable. This guy's got a really good hook. Throw our hands up.
Ooh.
Wow.
But Sam, I gotta get off.
No worries. Let's. I want to just flesh this out a little bit. I mean, look, it's a free speech issue. If you don't like me,
Hey! Shut up!
Thank you for calling into the Majority Report. Sam will be with you shortly.
all right, folks. Gonna call into the call-in system. Of course, I forgot to do that, and
Oh, we didn't talk about The View.
we can talk about
Love
The View.
View gossip. Why do I love it so much?
I love it too, and it's because I want to be on it so badly.
All right, well, let's talk about The View. Do we have it? The View, apparently, now is the time. People, I mean, look, I think we said this a month ago. January was going to be the month where people realized, like, oh, Bernie could win. Yeah. So maybe we've got to dust off our Bernie attacks, and here it is. Yeah. Women under 45 make up a larger share of Bernie Sanders' base than do men in their same age group, which, of course, contradicts this narrative of that it's the Bernie bros.
Turns out women under 45 are broke and want health care and secure housing and, criminal justice reform. And let's just go through the litany of things that affect women first.
Right. And look, this is something in The View is probably more problematic in many respects than, Karen Finney on CNN because more people watch The View.
Right.
And this is where sort of broadly you have these narratives formed. Now, let's listen to this. With that said, remember, in terms of like when you think about the general election, Donald Trump is not going to be able to project himself, regardless of how they paint Bernie Sanders, is not going to be able to project himself as a credible respecter of women's rights. Here is The View.
rather vote for a 78-year-old socialist who just had a heart attack than a woman.
I think that is probably accurate, but they've got to get it together because when you read Hillary's book, she does say that all of the innuendo and all of the Bernie Sanders attacks really led the way and paved the way for Trump calling her crooked Hillary. So she thinks that Bernie's attacks really
I have to say, I don't see why this is big news. So two people are in a room
because.
Well, wait, let me finish my thought, and then I'd love to hear what you have to say. But
They all
so
hate each
people
other.
are in a room and they're talking, and one person says, "Gee, do you think a woman can win a race in this country?" And the other one goes, "I don't know about that." I mean, everybody has conversations like that. Why is this a big story?
It's a big story because he hurt Hillary Clinton so much in the last election, and it's a big story because while he has a good reputation on Capitol Hill, he does as a being.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to air some
Dirty laundry?
Some laundry.
Oh,
I know Megan.
Hold on, Will.
Okay, sorry.
This is the breaking news.
Breaking news.
Okay, go ahead.
I know Meghan McCain, and I know she doesn't believe that.
She does not believe that.
No.
There you go.
Well, I know because we text each other about Bernie, and she would talk about how. True story. We're both from Arizona.
So
I mean, people in cable news, you all know each other. You all have to more or less be civil with each other. And I think
I'm
she's
not very
lost
friendly
it.
with a lot of people I come across, but that's just I'm
not friendly with Karen Finney.
Right.
Let's just put it that way. But I have not had to go to war with Meghan McCain, so we can be on the same side of an issue sometimes. And not recently. I mean, she's supporting Joe Biden, so I can understand why suddenly she may have a different opinion of
Right.
Bernie Sanders. But that's not what she felt like 5 months
right.
ago.
But I mean,
If
at
this
the
is
end of the
old
day,
news, that's not what
at
she
the end
felt
of the
5 months
day,
ago.
who really cares
Who cares?
what Meghan McCain actually believes about anything?
It's so fun. That's why,
it's
Sam.
sort of fun. It is
Yeah,
sort of fun.
I appreciate you airing the laundry like that.
Oh, no. I love to see the laundry because it's also fun to look at what she looks like when she's lying, which, really looks like what she looks like all the time.
It's nice to be able to say, look at this liar lying right now. That's
exactly.
what it looks like when
That's
a liar
what it looks
lies.
like.
Well, one more thing. I just this is what drives me crazy about The View. It is so skewed towards wealthier women. Nobody on that stage, including Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg, who may have worked their asses off to get to where they are, but that was many, many years ago. And at the end of the day, that's what I think the issue with this system that we live in is when you have consultants on who are making millions of dollars, and you have journalists and comedians, and they're all making millions of dollars, they're just reinforcing the narrative that lost us to Trump. And that's why, despite the fact that they have so many viewers on The View, that's why Donald Trump was still able to annihilate Hillary Clinton. No amount of propaganda could break through. And I don't know, it creates an opening. And so who's the only person who can break through that is Bernie Sanders.
Well, and we should say, look, the reality is if you look at the 2015 polling, you start to see, as Hillary Clinton gears up for her election, you start to see favorability ratings dropping. This is months before Bernie Sanders even jumps into the race. Right at the beginning of 2015, you start to see a serious decline in her favorability rating. People forget, in 2014, she was considered the most popular woman in the world, or at the very least in this country. But as soon as she started to campaign, that dropped precipitously. Before
she lied
Bernie.
about the server too. I mean, we forget about that moment where they did the press conference and they called her in the lie. And CNN, everybody, do you remember this?
I don't remember that.
I remember because it was the first time I spoke out against her publicly.
But the bottom line is that she should have won the election. There was a myriad of other things that cut into her. The idea that she couldn't sustain that campaign when we have seen stuff that happened between Obama and Clinton when they ran in 2008 was much more vicious.
But I think ultimately why Warren is dangerous and Biden, Warren for Trump's election and Biden as well, is that when you create this space where populists don't feel inclined or working people don't feel inclined to turn out and vote, like in 2016 where people stayed home and a few of them did go and vote for Trump, that's what happens when you watch The View and they're supporting Warren. Warren's support is wealthy. That is a fact. And when you have a candidate who you're pushing as the wealthy candidate, you're creating more of an opening for Donald Trump to win this election again.
That's why he's out there talking about low-flow toilets and dishwashers, because he's trying to talk to those people.
Yep.
And Warren provides an out for people who are maybe a little more well-off, who want to feel like they're progressives, but not take it all the way with the most progressive candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to that. I think it's just that, different candidates appeal to different people. I don't think that, I just don't believe that people necessarily, are that ideological, broadly speaking.
Can I say something that might be controversial?
Sure.
The centrist capitalist Democrats are more likely to fall in line with a Democrat Bernie Sanders nominee than the working class people who don't feel inspired to turn out are to fall in line with a Democratic, wealthy, Warren candidate. Meaning they're not going to vote for Trump.
High propensity voters, high propensity Democratic voters, which are frankly wealthier. I mean, wealthy people are higher propensity voters broadly. Are going to vote for more likely to vote for the Democrat than stay home, because that's definitionally they're high propensity voters.
But if it was a Mitt Romney, for instance, they would vote for Mitt Romney over Bernie Sanders. Because Donald Trump is in the race, they have no choice.
Trump makes Bernie possible.
Exactly.
Might start trying to rationalize not voting in this election, or maybe vote for like a Bloomberg.
Fuck him.
Yeah, but and I mean that is the concern is would Bloomberg would run, but we will find out more as we go with that.
Do you want to be done with this clip?
I want to be done with this clip. Unless is there more?
There's more.
Oh my God!
Let's see a little more. Let's see a little more.
And the other one goes, I don't know about that. I mean, everybody has conversations like that. Why is this a big story?
It's a big story because he hurt Hillary Clinton so much in the last election, and it's a big story because while he has a good reputation on Capitol Hill, he does as being a congenial senator with other senators. His supporters have a really bad reputation, meaning the Bernie Bros. It's actually one of the few things that really connects liberal pundits and conservative female pundits together. Is there's just a level of misogyny. Look at Twitter, look at some of the accounts they do that is directed towards specifically women in politics and specifically women in political commentary. And I'm sure I will have my Twitter just lit up on fire because of this. But he has a problem with women, and he has for a long time. And I think if Elizabeth Warren has this in her back pocket, all's fair in politics, all's fair in love and war. And I think, look, I don't want another misogynist as president. No. Okay? I mean, I think we're all women in this country
but
are
Joe
sick of it.
Biden is my choice.
I have always thought he had a problem with women. So, and it's one of the things he can't, like Mayor Pete with black voters, this is his Achilles heel with female voters.
Yeah, no, I experienced it firsthand when I did the Bill Maher show. Look, he has no filter. That's part of why Bernie is.
Bill Maher, also a misogynist. Come on, guys. Wait, can someone just pull up the thousands of clips of Meghan McCain trashing Hillary Clinton? That is why we had this cordial relationship, was because in 2016 we'd be on panels and be like, the DNC is corrupt. I'm like, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Meghan McCain right now.
I went through that when I would critique Israel. Pat Buchanan would bring me on MSNBC because I was his favorite house Jew, I guess, or something. And I just, for me, it was nauseating. And like I said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
You get on once, you realize oh, wait a second. He brought me on because he wants to be critical of Israel. And I'm like, I'll do that on my own. Thank you. I don't need to associate myself with Pat Buchanan.
Build the wall, Pat Buchanan.
Yes. I distinctly remember being at the DNC. I think I've told this story before when we were there for Air America Radio, and we were in Radio Row, and none of the right-wing talk shows, which is all they were, knew, they didn't understand what liberal talk was. They just had never, I don't think they had ever really sort of talked. And I think in their world, which I came to understand at that convention, was that they're just, a lot of them are just come on, man, save it for the field. I was like, what do you mean save it for the field? Larry Elder told me this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, something like that. And I'm like, wait a second. Because I used to listen to Larry Elder. I was working out in LA. And this guy was just cheerleading on the war. And I was just this is like this is a role for you.
Yep.
Like, are you kidding me? Like,
well, maybe
you're
that's how he's
cheerleading
able
to death.
to look at himself in the mirror every day.
And, well, I guess so. And so all these guys, some of them, are true believers, but they've never had a real conversation. Right. So one of these guys sidles up and he goes, "Air America, you guys are liberal, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah, well, I'm not like these other Republicans. These other Republicans. I'm a Buchanan guy. These guys are just Jews." And I was like, "Oh, right,
Oh,
of course."
My God.
Wow, know your audience.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, am I the first one you've ever met? Because, a lot of people sort of peg me as Jewish early in the conversation. All right, so let's talk about where we are with impeachment. Nancy Pelosi announced today the House managers of the impeachment. I was a little bit disappointed not to see Justin Amash because I feel like that would be a way of drawing attention to this.
Yeah, no brainer.
Yes. Now, there are obviously internal politics too with this that they have to. That Pelosi has to have. I guess there's only going to be 7 managers. Adam Schiff is one, which I think, based upon what he did with the Intelligence Committee, I thought that makes some sense.
And he's done it before.
And he's done it before. Jerry Nadler, Zoe Lofgren, Hakeem Jeffries, Val Demings, Jason Crow, Sylvia Garcia. I mean, these are all very sharp people. I don't remember Jeffries, I don't remember him as much during the I guess he was on the judiciary.
They really love him, and it's very, he's a New York congressman.
Well, they're trying to, they're grooming him.
Yeah, it's very clear.
And they're grooming him for a leadership position. Yep. And so, they want to put him front and center in this. And that's basically what's going on there. So
watch him closely. Not just during this, but in general.
What is the Laura Kelly? What is that, Brendan?
That's the name of the Kansas governor. I put that in.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. I thought you were saying. All right. Sorry. And so these are the impeachment managers, and they will be basically shepherding the articles of impeachment through the Senate. I don't know exactly what their role is, but they will be getting up and making the case, essentially, the prosecutors. Now, in the event that there are witnesses, they will also be questioning the witnesses. It's unclear whether they're witnesses. Apparently, Ted Cruz is floating like a reciprocal witness things like, you guys can call Bolton and then we call Hunter Biden. Now, frankly,
okay,
I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you for nominating Bernie Sanders
right.
as president.
Right. And that's the game they're playing.
And I bet you Trump doesn't want that to happen either. You really actually have to think about that at this point because he's quietly freaking out over Bernie Sanders.
He's so scared. He's not being quiet about it.
Well, but internally they say he's obsessed with him.
I think, I don't know. I think it's a bluff because I think if they bring in Hunter Biden, it's going to bring a lot of attention to impeachment. And I don't think they want to do that.
That's right.
I think they want to keep this quiet because, again, I've been saying this for a long time. Cory Gardner, we played a clip of, we played an ad the other day against Susan Collins. For instance, here's an example. Susan Collins lives across the street from Stephen King, the novelist. And this is what Stephen King has parked out in front of his house.
Funny.
And it is a truck with a big billboard that says, Trump broke the law. Senator Collins, don't help him cover it up. A vote to convict and remove. And
also, do you have any salt?
And exactly. Do you have a cup of sugar? I've run out.
Great celebrity activism.
That is a dope ass house, too.
And particularly for Stephen King. But the point is that that is a preview of what we're going to hear. And every time they vote to not have witnesses, to foreclose this part of the impeachment hearing or that part of the impeachment, that's going to be the list. And I can tell you, I can see the ad. I'm sure you can too. It's just going to go boom, 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 boom. And then they're going to have boxes next to it. And it's all going to say like, voted to protect Trump, ching ching. Voted to protect Trump from witnesses, ching ching. Voted against justice, ching ching. And, you know, there's going to be tiny little writing. They're going to say like Senate bill, blah, 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 impeachment, whatever it is. And that's what that's how they're going to run against. That's how the challengers are going to run against these people. So there's a lot of pressure.
Can we do that to Democrats too?
We're seeing it now with progressive. There's a lot of progressives running against that. Here is Brit Hume. Now, sort of like, and this gives you a little bit of an indication that they are prepared now, that they're starting to realize there's no way we're not going to be able to keep the American public from knowing the facts. And so they have stopped arguing the facts, and they're going to move on to like, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Assume, Martha, just for the sake of discussion, that John Bolton comes in and he says, yeah, the president wanted the Bidens investigated and he withheld the aid for a time to try to get that done. I don't think that adds anything to some of our knowledge. I don't think very many Republican senators are going to say that they think Trump did that or that he's guilty of that, but I think most of them think that he did, and I think what most of them think is improper but not impeachable. Yeah. And I think that's where we've been for a long time. And
now, pause it for a second. So Brit Hume is having it both ways. He's saying, like, I don't think that's what they think that he did, but if John Bolton comes in and tells them that that's what he did, then they'll say, well, okay, he did that, but it's not not in
the impeachable way.
Yeah, not in a bad way. But I think when they're starting to give ground, the idea that Bolton's going to come in and going to lay it all out, I think that they're moving to sort of like their next sort of retreat, which is, well, even if he did do it, it's not that bad. But this Parnas stuff
is bonkers.
Let me read a little bit from what the New York Times has written about Lev Parnas. Now, Lev Parnas, just a reminder, and I have to say, I went as Lev Parnas on Halloween night, and I don't want to,
Did you really?
I did. Well, because it was the easiest thing, because his picture was around at that time, and it was just, he was wearing a big gold medallion, and that was, like, I like a low sweat costume.
Do you have a picture of this?
No, it was the medallion I wore was not even, it was made out of like a shiny paper that I was just over at a friend's house.
You could have just come to visit Greektown. I would have gotten you one.
I made the choice at like 8 p.m. because I was going to go to I didn't think I was going to go to this party, and I went to the party.
Anytime you need an emergency
gold medallion,
I am the person you call.
I
might have one in my purse right now.
I will. Oh, I'll
It'll
let you know.
only take you 3 hours to get there.
The N train that turns into the R.
So Lev Parnas has turned. Now, let me just preface this by saying it's not inconceivable, although I imagine there are people working on sort of like validating these documents. Lev Parnas has turned and had provided text messages and documents to Congress. And they show that the ambassador, Marie Yovanovitch, who testified in front of Congress, was removed from her post. A Parnas associate now running for Congress sent menacing text messages suggesting that he had Yovanovitch under surveillance in Ukraine. So here's what is included here. The materials include a letter Rudy Giuliani wrote to Ukraine's then president-elect, Zelensky. This is the former actor. Requesting a May 14th meeting with the new leader in Giuliani's capacity as personal counsel to President Trump and with his knowledge and consent. Giuliani never actually had that meeting, but that's what he sent. Another document released by the House investigators appears to show Parnas, Lev Parnas, who is a Giuliani associate. Here's a picture of them. They're all partying somewhere. I don't know where. There's Donald Trump Jr. as well. That's Lev Parnas. But he's with that, but he's not with Giuliani there. Who is that guy next to him? That's not Hyde, right? No, that's, yeah. Okay, so So he says, okay, this shows Parnas directly involved with efforts to get Zelensky to announce investigations related to Biden. Remember, this is the thing. They only asked for an announcement. They didn't actually ask for an actual investigation because they just wanted the value of that. In handwritten notes on a piece of stationery from the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Vienna, Parnas wrote, quote, get Zelensky to announce that the Biden case will be investigated.
This is
that bad.
Right?
It's so stupid. It's like,
well, that's what I'm saying. It's a low-rent Scorsese script. So, okay. So the materials show that Parnas, who is a Russian speaker, helped coordinate Giuliani's outreach to Ukrainian sources, was directly communicating with an array of top Ukrainian officials. Among them was Yuri Lutsenko. Lutsenko. Okay, Lutsenko was Ukraine's top prosecutor who Interpol, all of the EU, and the United States was trying to get rid of, trying to get fired because the guy was so corrupt. He was a close political ally of then the president, Poroshenko, and he was running for re-election, Poroshenko was. Lutsenko wanted to get rid of Yovanovitch, the U.S. ambassador, because she had been critical of his office and supported a quasi-independent anti-corruption bureau that he did not like. This is like, when Cuomo didn't want that commission on corruption in New York.
The Moreland Commission.
The Moreland Commission. And it's as if some representative from somewhere else was really pushing for the Moreland Commission. Mm-hmm. And he wanted him.
He ran on the Moreland Commission. Then when it was set up and they started investigating him,
he shut it down.
They shut it down.
So these got these messages written in Russian show Lutsenko urging Parnas to force Yovanovitch out in exchange for cooperation regarding Biden. That is known as a quid pro quo.
It is.
And 4 days later, so this is what he wrote on it.
This is amazing.
Here is what the message was. Okay, at one point, Lutsenko would suggest he won't make any helpful public statements unless Madam, as in the Madam Ambassador, right? That's the way that they're referred to, is removed. It's just that you don't make a decision about Madam. If you don't make a decision about Madam, you are calling into question all of my declarations, including about B.
Which they don't know.
Now, B could mean Biden, it could mean Burisma, or it could just mean some other B that we don't know about that has never come up in any of the things that we see all the evidence about. 4 days later, Lutsenko told Parnas that the work on the case, the owner of the gas company, is proceeding successfully, and evidence of the money transfers of B had been obtained. And here you can't even remove one fool. Right? That is probably Yovanovitch. She is not a simple fool. Trust me, Parnas responded. But she's not getting away. Parnas days later told Lutsenko that soon everything will turn around and will be on the right course. Lutsenko responded that he has copies of payments Burisma made to the investment firm co-founded by Biden's son, Hunter. The following month, Yovanovitch was removed from her post at Giuliani's urging. Now, here's the weird part about this. Now, remember, when Yovanovitch testified, she said that the State Department just called her and said, you got to get out of there right now.
Immediately.
We have security concerns. The Ukrainians have told us there's security concerns, which is weird.
Yeah, which is very weird.
So new documents also introduced this guy, Hyde. What's his first name? Robert Hyde. He's running for Congress in Connecticut. And he asserted to Parnas in messages that he had Yovanovitch under physical and electronic surveillance.
What does Robert Hyde do for a living? Do we know this?
I don't know what he does.
They just kind of like throw him in here.
Yeah, I don't know who he is. He's a Trump donor. We don't know. And he writes in an encrypted message, wow, can't believe Trump hasn't fired this, I think, bitch.
Oh, my God.
And he says, I'll get right on that. To Parnas. Hyde described having contact with a, quote, private security firm located near the embassy that was apparently monitoring the ambassador's movements. She's talked to 3 people. Her phone is off, computer off, he wrote in one message. They will let me know when she's on the move, he said in another. Later, he alerted Parnas that he had been told Yovanovitch would not be moved to a special security unit. So there is evidence that, like, they know that she is under threat and she's not going to be moved to a special security thing. This is weird stuff.
Why was she told what was happening?
No, she asked, like, she was never told what the threat was.
That's really fishy.
Yeah, it is.
And also, like, the Ukrainians supposedly told them, well, wait, who? And
now
if
Hyde,
the president was in on this.
This is not going to come to surprising you. Runs a Washington-based government relations firm.
Oh, of course.
Finney Hyde and Associates. That's a lobbying firm. The company's website is decorated with pictures of Hyde and high-powered Republicans like Trump, Mike Pence, Ted Cruz. Hyde's firm claims to have handled major public affairs projects in the U.S. and abroad and worked for clients including the U.S. foreign government allies, or including foreign government allies of the U.S.
Look at those red-faced homunculi.
Yep.
Just grinning their rictus smiles at us.
I really like his avatar.
I think, the question is now, what does Nancy Pelosi do? Do they basically say, does the Intel Committee, do they try and call Parnas into the Senate? They're going to.
Of course.
And they're going to try and call Bolton. Now, Parnas, I think, will come and testify.
Is he an American citizen?
I don't know if he is an American citizen. I don't think so. Remember, they caught Parnas and the other guy, what's his pal's name? With tickets, one-way tickets to Vienna.
Right.
When the FBI rounded them up. Igor Fruman. Yeah, Fruman.
Yes.
Igor Fruman. This stuff is nuts.
So crazy.
And so we haven't heard the last of this by any stretch of the imagination. I think supposedly the trial is going to begin Wednesday of next week. And here is Schiff, Adam Schiff, basically announcing this new sort of documents that were released last night implicating Parnas and Hyde.
There's been speculation from time to time maybe the president or his allies will throw Mr. Giuliani under the bus. That letter makes clear that Giuliani, in his own words, is acting at the behest and with the knowledge and consent of the president. There is no fobbing this off on others. The president was the architect of this scheme. These documents are important. We have only obtained a very small sample of the universe of documents that the president is withholding. If Mr. McConnell wants to follow the Clinton model, as he keeps professing, all of the documents were provided before the trial. Those documents should be demanded by the senators. If the senators want to see the evidence, they should demand to see the documents and not participate in an effort to stonewall or cover up the president's misconduct.
Now, I just want to make clear what he's saying there. He's saying, and I think this is why they were waiting. They wanted to wait to release these documents because now they're in the public record. They can be introduced into the trial in the Senate as part of the articles of information, the articles of impeachment are being sent with. And the Senate cannot say, like, this is new information that we can't include in this trial that weren't brought commensurate with the commensurate with the articles of impeachment.
What took them so long? They had them, and then
they were waiting for
Parnas
to get okay from a judge, I think.
Okay.
And that happened a couple of weeks ago, and I think, or a week or two ago, and they've been parsing through it, and they wanted to release this stuff and include it in what is being transferred over to the Senate, and so that way it cannot be ignored because it was submitted after the trial started.
Now, McConnell sets the rules for how the witnesses are going to be, questioned. When,
they vote
how long,
on it. They vote on it.
Oh, they vote on it, but he pushes them forward, right?
They vote on it, and then I think, he negotiates with the Republicans, and this is what's going on now. It's like guys like Cory Gardner are going like, we got to have witnesses, because otherwise I'm in big trouble.
Exactly.
And because I can't vote, I've got to vote to have witnesses. I can't not vote to have witnesses because that's going to be another one of those little boxes. Like, the last vote maybe I can take to protect Donald Trump. But all these subsidiary ones, I have to make it look like it's a real trial.
Right. And their excuses, well, they're playing this game of in 19 when Clinton was impeached, they didn't have to bring witnesses to the Senate, but
I think they did have a couple of witnesses in the Senate.
But their argument that they're trying to make is that, well, you didn't have to go through this exhausting trial. Well, part of that is because the majority of the witnesses were brought before Congress. These are new witnesses, essentially.
I think because some of them came before the House, but I think the other issue is that they're saying, we're just going to go, we don't have to do any investigating. We're just going to use with the existing information. Now,
exactly.
With Clinton, there was a 2-year investigation that preceded the impeachment hearings. So, by Ken Starr. So that's why there was that much more information as it was.
So interesting.
Yeah. And we're going to see. This is going to be pretty crazy. All right, let's do just one more fun video, and then we'll take some calls and we'll talk about some other stuff. But this is, do you know who Gun Girl is?
No, I saw that I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, there's a woman, Caitlin Bennett, and she was at Kent State, right? And she was a member of the Turning Points USA squad at Kent State, and they did
chapter. They have chapters.
Yeah, they have chapters. All these colleges.
Of course they do.
Of course. And she did a protest about wearing diapers, right? Was that it? Or what was the whole thing?
It was about how the left is babies. So they dressed up in diapers themselves with rattles. And
sometimes to show that left is baby, you must be baby.
And she got the nickname Gun Girl because she showed up with a gun at graduation. Was that?
And took some graduation pictures with it and stuff like that.
At Kent State, that's
very sensitive.
Very redolent.
Interesting.
Yep. And then there was a rumor. And I don't know if this is true. Do we have any, where did the rumor start? Do we know?
It comes from the journalistic outfit known as Barstool Sports.
Barstool Sports.
So not one I usually...
And somebody there claimed that what? That they were at a party and she pooped her pants at a party. Now, I don't know if that's true or not.
It happens to the best
But
of
I
us.
do know, all I can say with assuredness is that Barstool Sports made that claim.
Take it up with Barstool.
Right. And now, so they put out this, they have this show called Liberty Hangout. And she goes and interviews people on college campuses and tries to trip them up. We played a clip of this the other day where she was, talking about, basically trying to imply, isn't it a horror show that trans people can use bathrooms? And some dude, she was interviewing was just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And she's like, but what if would you think that there should be tampons in the men's room? And he's like, if the dude needs a tampon or whatever, that's his business. I don't care.
Doesn't she edit this though?
Well, that was the weird part. We've been trying to
Like-
figure out. I think she just this is one of the things about the right-wing grift. They don't care. They don't. At the end of the day, they don't care. If it drives traffic, they'll put it up there.
It might have been the best one that she had.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
But here she is running into another couple of people, and one of them immediately realizes who she is and says, "Aren't you the one who?"
So there's a third guy. There's a third guy that's kind of off camera during this, but she's basically that's not exactly the chronology. But she's interviewing these two people who identify as sort of like social democrats, but they we can get a taste from it. They identify as
It's not obvious, but it's in a more subtle way.
This is talking about sort of white supremacy.
I mean, look around. Do you see any indigenous people?
Yeah, I talked to a lot today, actually.
Really? What tribes were they from?
I didn't ask because that's not important to me.
But
it
is.
is.
Do you know the history?
It's not important to me.
Of this campus?
Tell me about it.
This was built, most of it was built by slave labor.
Why are you here?
Many buildings have the names of slave-holding families.
Why do you go in them?
Well, because Rutgers has a legacy also on top of this with really radical politics. Paul Robeson went here, the famous black communist.
Communist. Should we be celebrating that?
Are you triggered?
No, I'm asking you a question.
I believe, communism's a great thing, actually. I mean, obviously, it's been implemented in ways that haven't been effective in some
Can you show me where it's been effective?
I believe naturally humans hold a collective spirit. We are not atomized individuals. Neoliberalism has torn through humanity.
So individualism is out of the picture.
I believe we all have individual rights and the right to self-determination, as Palestinian people do as well.
Very brave.
Yes. And I also believe that naturally we are innately collective. And I believe that we all exist in a mosaic of humanity.
Oh my God,
and I think
really?
the fact that the capitalist system and neoliberalism has completely destroyed that produces ideologies like the far right that believe that in some ways ecofascism is a direct result of that.
My God, you were throwing out all these really crazy, weird terms. Ecofascism? No, they are. Like, honestly, if you talk to a normal person, ecofascism, that's really stupid.
The shooter self-identified as an eco-fascist. He wrote a manifesto about the climate crisis. He said he accepted the science and then scapegoated black and brown people.
Well, pause it. He was talking about the shooter, and I think they dropped that out so that she doesn't get demonetized.
Yeah.
They don't want that. That's interesting.
He said he accepted the science and then scapegoated black and brown people as a scapegoat for the climate crisis. This is real threats that we're dealing with, and I think to say that they're not real problems really minimizes.
I never said that. I said it's silly. What is ecofascism? What is that?
It's this idea that it's a branch of far-right politics. Usually far-right people don't accept the fact that climate change is a real pressing problem.
What do you think about this? You're just a bystander. What do you identify with? Are you
I don't like the way this is going.
Really
let me
care?
change the topic here. That's what she's going. But this guy's
smart.
Yeah. Like I want to send my kid to this college.
Yeah.
But here now, so she changes the subject and turns to this new guy, and this is where it starts getting interesting. Now remember, the rumor is, by this Barstool Sports reports or whatever it is, that she, and look, I one of my closest friends wrote about an incident like that in his book, in his memoir. John Benjamin wrote about that. I think he did, or maybe I'm telling that story that shouldn't be out. But nevertheless.
That's going to be in your memoir.
Nevertheless. But so, it happens. But, it's rough when it gets out there. It's weaponized.
Accept the fact that climate change is a real pressing problem.
What do you think about this? You're just a bystander. What do you identify with? Are you a right wing, left wing? Don't really care?
Don't really care.
Okay.
I'm in the middle.
Okay. What about ecofascism? Are you contributing to that?
I wasn't really listening to anything that was just said.
I don't blame you. If you want to walk away, you're totally free to. You look like you have more.
Is your name Caitlin Bennett or something?
It is, yeah.
Oh, I've seen you. I don't know. Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
He just walks away from her. And now, this is where things get interesting. So here are these commies on campus, as she calls them. And at one point, the guy decides to bring up, I think he must recognize the name at that point. And then
I think they knew who they were dealing with. Yeah.
I'm like a democratic socialist.
Okay, a communist. So you...
Let me go back a little bit further.
Oh my God. System in a prejudiced society, the only people I see putting black people down below them is you guys, white liberals, white communists that sit there and say, what are you?
I'm like a democratic socialist.
Okay, a communist. So you guys are the ones saying black people, based on their skin color, can't do X, Y, and Z.
No.
Yes, you are.
The system did that to them. We're not saying they're inherently...
And then there's that communist collective ideology. Yes, resist. What are you resisting?
I'm resisting you, bitch.
Wow, very progressive and brave.
Pause it for 1 second. Now, what's really...
I love it.
They use the sound effect. They use the sound effect to keep her from saying the B word.
Yeah.
But remember, this Caitlin Bennett is known online for having this mishap where she couldn't control her bowels, and they make this odd choice of using a fart noise instead of a beep in this thing, and that is...
I don't want to go there.
It's very odd.
I wonder if her editors are trolling her.
I think there's also this sort of maybe there's a wrestling quality to this. I know, this is, but let's go.
resisting.
I'm resisting you, bitch.
Wow, very progressive and brave.
Like, I don't understand what you're trying. Like, can you just tell me what you're trying to accomplish? Because I want an open dialogue with you, but you're not giving me.
You just called me a. Do you really want an open dialogue when you're calling me names?
Because I want you to give.
Will you apologize?
I'm sorry for calling you a.
Thank you.
And at Kent State too.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you were there.
Okay.
What did he say?
So he just said you pooped your pants.
He said, "I'm sorry, you yourself at Kent State."
Right. But I was using a different. You pooped your pants at Kent State, and so now she's she's pissed because she doesn't want that out there.
It's important for every movement to contain within it people who can speak well on the ravages of neoliberalism and people who can do vulgarity in a funny way. And sometimes those are the same person.
And to speak of movements, as it were.
Do you really want an open dialogue when you're calling me names?
Because I want you to give.
Will you apologize?
Evidence. I'm sorry for calling you a.
All right, thank you.
And at Kent State too.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you were there sucking. So actually, just for the camera, this guy was at a party at Kent State. I don't know what you were doing there, but he was giving out free jobs, wanted nothing in return.
Pause it for 1 second. He was giving out free BJs. And now free ones.
What a nice guy.
Free ones. Dude wasn't even getting paid.
Aren't most blowjobs free?
What's that?
Not for her.
Blowjobs
Clearly.
I mean, I haven't seen the statistics, but I mean, in my experience, but you know,
it's amazing because you can hear it in her voice. She's
anyways, in my experience.
She is super pissed that he said
She's
that.
super
to her.
pissed, and
just
this
goes,
is where she immediately goes to that.
just way homophobic.
Right, yeah.
Do you really want an open dialogue when you're calling me names?
Because I want you to give.
Will you
me,
apologize?
Evidence. I'm sorry for calling you a.
All right, thank you.
And at Kent State too.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you were there sucking. So actually, just for the camera, this guy was at a party at Kent State. I don't know what you were doing there, but he was giving out free jobs, wanted nothing in return.
Wanted nothing in return.
I guess I was.
Why were you giving out free jobs?
Communism.
Yeah.
Give it to anyone.
Collective spirit. Yeah. Share the wealth.
Redistribute the wealth.
All right. You guys think you're acting funny, but I encourage you to look at this video after we put that in there. This is going to be great.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And the best part is
guy on my show. Holy
the best
shit.
part is like she goes from the homophobia to the and he got nothing in return. Which gives you a sense of like what her romantic relationships are like.
Communism.
Right.
Definitely. You got every piece of you needs to be for sale in an individualistic society.
Exactly. Well, or as she says, quid pro quo. There you go.
That was incredible.
Man.
Best of.
Yeah, that's great stuff.
Yeah, and just do you guys know this because you understand the business, but who watches that show? Is it young people? Like,
it's weird because they Liberty Hangout has.
They're for real. I mean, we will not go. I mean, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but broadly speaking, we will not go and mock people who have no following because it is not. It has no political value.
Right. They got the ANCAP colors up there. FM.
But she has almost 400,000 subscribers.
Yeah. I'm curious.
She got 128,000 views on that video that we just, or on some video that she's put up, and it's a day old. I mean, so she gets some views.
She gets over 100K.
New Yorkers don't know the meaning of Christmas.
So it must be an older audience. I mean, if you're okay, and then like people who just like the alt-right, and then us.
Yeah, they're obsessed with children,
It's the
but
elderly.
they themselves are old.
Right.
The old and fascists.
I don't know if that's the case.
No.
I don't know. I would be surprised if someone said to me that, like, the majority of people who are watching that are over the age of 45. I just, YouTube tends to have a younger audience. And, you remember, these are reactionaries around the country. And they also, the thing that the right does that we don't do on the left, and, I think for a myriad of reasons, they have a lot of reciprocity. Mm-hmm. They have sort of networks where they're encouraged, I think, to share these things. Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't know where she gets her funding. Maybe she doesn't get any. Maybe it's all just from YouTube at this point. But this is what they do. There's a lot of this sort of like, they know that there is value in going back and forth with each other.
She's very Tomi Lahren. It's not like she's Jordan Peterson, who's like appealing to a younger male alt-right audience. Like this is, I feel like her, just looking at her list, like the war on Christmas.
Yeah, but don't you think Tomi Lahren is oh, you think Tomi Lahren is just sold to the Fox people?
Yeah, I mean, but early Tomi Lahren was, now she's on Fox, but it was very war on Christmas, but it was still an older audience that was chiming, and people who thought she was hot, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't have a sense of who's watching her, but I mean,
someone should look this up.
I would imagine, like, look, the same people who watch Crowder would watch this stuff too. I mean, the healthy dose of homophobia, I'm going to college students and proving.
Crowder's got like 4 million subs or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
he's huge.
She's like a young alt-right Pepe's dream girl.
Yep. All right, let's go to the phones. Calling from a 478 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good afternoon, Sam and Majority Report. This is Jeff in Georgia. Hello,
Jeff in Georgia. What's on your mind, Jeff?
Hey, man. Don't Shoot the Messenger just been asked right off the top to tell you to please turn on the IM machine.
Oh, okay.
A little bit stronger than that, but I will deliver the message to you in a
all right, there you go.
way.
I appreciate that.
I wanted to talk about the debate. Everybody wants to talk about the debate. I love everything that's been said about it. Your coverage has been great last night and today. I just want to add one thing, because I know people are riled up about this, and it's a tactical kind of second order thing, but I do think it matters. And I actually kind of want people to take it as a symbol of hope. I feel like starting about a month ago, Warren started to try to differentiate herself from Bernie in a way that was clean. It didn't work. In fact, it hurt her in the polls a little bit. She topped out at 22% in Iowa, I believe, and she's down about 5 points from that now. This is not going to work, and it was the only play. However she got talked into it, or however she got roped into it, or these people went rogue without her wanting this to happen, I don't know. It don't really matter. She signed on to it. She hitched her wagon to it in front of a bunch of cameras and microphones. So it's done. I think that we'll look back on this moment as the beginning of the end for her. She's going to top out as a United States senator. I really do believe that, and that's a shame. It really is. I'm not pleased to believe that, but I do think it's good news for Bernie. I really do, because I don't think that this bullshit's gonna stick at all.
Well, like I say, I think I don't know that this was about her trying to. I mean, maybe it was her trying to put a cap on Bernie's growth, but I think it was really more about her trying to impress Biden and Buttigieg voters, and I just don't think it's going to achieve that. I would.
Well, I
wouldn't,
her, but I
listen,
really mean the campaign, because that's who did this.
Well, right, but I mean, look,
and however she got talked into it, however they convinced her, like that was their goal, I think.
Oh no,
hurt Bernie.
I think their goal was. I think it makes most sense. For their goal to be, I think hurting Bernie was ancillary. I think their goal was to get support where they think they can get it right now, and I think they thought that they could impress those voters who went with Biden because they think Biden can win, but may like Warren more. Probably women that Warren can win, that she can fight, and that she can go in and do this. And I don't. It's not worth it to make a distinction between her and the campaign. I mean, because this is it's a campaign. Whenever we say her, it's a campaign. Whenever we say him, it's a campaign. That's what we're talking about here. I do think I would not be surprised though that if Bernie wins, that Warren ends up in the cabinet. That would not surprise me. I mean,
but do you not think that the interests of Warren personally, and that perhaps the people who are talking to her and who were probably responsible for this, the reporting is not totally out on this, but I think that they're actually not really aligned, and that's why I make the distinction between them, because I think that they may have sold it to her as a way to, not to cap Bernie, but to, do better in the polls, to win, to show she can fight, whatever. However they sold it to her, I don't believe for a second that those Clinton people believe that shit. What they wanted to do was kneecap Bernie because they're still sore about it. I know that seems kind of childish, but I think that's how these people think.
Yeah, I mean, was Rospers? Did he work?
Rospers was an Obama person.
Yeah, he was an Obama person, and look, I mean, but I think I don't think it's. I agree with you, but my point is this: is that look, in the context of what we're talking about, because I just don't think it's that helpful to get too enamored or about like these specific individuals in this context. You and I think the people in this audience largely share an agenda, right? And it's an issue set of an agendas. And in this instance, or when a president gets elected, they bring in a lot of people who are going to push it. And they're also in this instance, which I think is unique in our politics today, is that Sanders it's not just about winning an election with Sanders. For him to win, it necessitates doing something that is different, that has implications on the way that he governs or administers the presidency. Although I should say, I think that was the case with Clinton too. I think they wanted to create a coalition of Republicans in the suburbs, and in fact, Schumer, I think it was, or what's his face, Ed Rendell, was famously said, for every one blue collar we lose in Democrat we lose in Pittsburgh, we're going to pick up 2 or 3 Republicans in the suburbs, and I think that was a strategy. That was also a governing strategy. They wanted to make a deal with Paul Ryan. They wanted to do Schumer was bragging about the deal that he already had in his pocket about repatriating that money and putting it in for infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. But Bernie is doing a similar thing, but with a different group of people for a different agenda. And I think he's the only one in this race who is doing that at this point. I don't think the coalition that a Biden or a Warren or a Buttigieg, for that matter, they're trying to assemble is anything more than an electoral coalition as opposed to a governing coalition. And I think Bernie is doing it from not necessarily the position of strength that Clinton thought she was doing it from. She was trying to fashion her electorate so that she had certain flexibility to move in a specific way when she was president that involved things that you and I necessarily wouldn't be, 100% on board with. Bernie is doing this because this is the only path that he has to win. It also aligns with his ideology. I mean, all of that things, I don't mean to make it sound like it's cynical, but that's the path that he's going to win. And that's also the path that he would have to govern and wants to govern from. To
put it a little bit less cynically, I would say, a massive mobilization of popular movement with, this working class.
Yeah, I'm trying to
is the only way we're actually going to get any effective governance in the first place. So, even if it fails, it's still the only path worth even trying.
I know. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I'm just making a purely just sort of like a campaign analysis.
With that being said, despite losing, a horrible election in 2016. The methods, as we've said over and over, really for everybody to the right of Bernie in this race have remained very similar to 2016 tactics, in so much that if Warren and Biden's did align in some way, if Warren gave her delegates to Biden or whatever happens, that is the Hillary coalition. That is, wealthy progressives who, in Hillary's primary, and of course the Obama-Biden base. I don't think Biden pulls working class voters from Bernie to the level that they might be illustrating. I think he still has some loyal Democrats who could be friendly to Bernie. Their second choice is Bernie, but they weren't Bernie Democrats in 2016.
My concern with Biden is not that he doesn't necessarily pull those working class workers. I don't think he's going to pull the amounts that Bernie will.
Right.
But I think he will pull certainly more, I think, than Clinton did. But I think the problem with Biden is that he's not going to pull the African American vote that needs to come out.
Honestly, I'm straight up worried about that dude making it to inauguration day.
Well, I'm also worried about
like,
that honestly, he
this.
gets the nomination in September and his eyes pop or something like that. I mean, but I am still convinced that the cohort of black vote that Biden has, which is the largest cohort of black votes, are high propensity voters.
Right.
And they will come out and vote for any Democrat because they know any Democrat is going to be better than any Republican in terms of just things like civil liberties, like the Voting Rights Act,
right.
Like basic down to basics. I'm convinced that his voters represent high propensity voters and that Bernie's black voters represent low propensity voters, ones that stayed home in Milwaukee, that stayed home in Detroit, that stayed home in Philadelphia, and contributed to Clinton's loss because she didn't appeal to those people. She didn't attempt to.
And if you guys have friends in these areas and you want to educate them on this, Milwaukee has the most segregated population in the country. So essentially, Hillary Clinton was ignoring an incredibly it's a crisis. It's a racial crisis in Milwaukee that is just, it's not given enough attention in the press. And, Wisconsin is not like a bunch of white working class, like what they're trying to make it out to be, like, construction workers or whatever, Rust Belt workers.
Right. That's not the issue. The issue is Milwaukee.
Exactly.
And obviously voter suppression had a lot to do with this as well. Of
course.
But it's not like the voter suppression's going away.
And also, it's not like they were fighting it. They didn't even have an office there.
Right. And so...
I mean, not before you win an election and maybe get some changes, right? Like, that's the whole point. I think overwhelming the system is with voters, of course.
Sure.
I'm not ready for armed revolution yet.
Sorry, Jamie.
It's the only path left. Like this technocratic coalition of liberals that, governed for 8 years under Obama. I'm sorry, things got a little bit worse, a little bit faster all the time. And we just can't go back to that. And anyone but Bernie, frankly, would probably result in the same thing happening when the next Republican president comes around. I feel like I've taken up way too much of your time.
Jeff,
and people are going to be mad at me.
As always,
so can
pleasure.
I just say that I have a show? It's called the Just Depends Podcast. It's
I was
not
just
a
going to say
stream.
that.
It's scripted. It's great. You can find it on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, everywhere podcasts are sold. Thank you, Sam. I love you guys. Have a great day.
Dissident Peasant, folks. That's where I learned that Francine Perkins went to the same high school as my folks in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Oh.
Classical High. Yep.
Classical High.
Yeah. From Dissident Peasant, from Jeff's podcast. That's where I learned that.
Why do they call it Classical High?
That was just the name of it. I don't know. They taught classical stuff. I have no idea. Calling from a 312 area code. Who's this?
This is Melissa from Chicago.
Melissa from Chicago. Welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Well, I do want to address the debate, but first I wanted to address the two vegan callers from the past 2 weeks.
Yes.
The first one from 2 weeks ago was clearly a YouTuber that goes by the name Ask Yourself, and he's kind of he just goes and debates like different YouTubers and Twitch streamers, and he tries to logic morality and makes really bad arguments. And
I
so,
did notice that.
I don't feel he's a very good representation
of a vegan. Well, that's the second vegan call that we got. I think it was from the king of earned media. Was it?
So
Lepaco?
that libertarian was identified.
Wait, did Lepaco give us the second vegan call? I don't know what. It was Lepaco gave us the second. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Wait, what's the controversy over vegan?
We just got a very bad call about. Well, not bad call. I actually quite enjoyed it, but it was about a guy trying to make an argument as to why I was in favor of.
Honey?
Why I was in favor of eating animals but not people. And
actually, let's be precise. You want to know why you accept mass farming and don't accept mass cannibalism.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that was why do I allow
I think that's a fair question.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
I mean,
I don't eat meat.
I didn't think it was an unfair question,
Yeah.
and I said, I think there's a certain amount of hypocrisy, and obviously, like, I don't know, why do I protect my kids, more than the kids down the street that I don't know? Close proximity with human beings is a fairly, typical trait on some level. And I think, I said I think that it's quite possible that we look back on this time and we see it, but it's largely my issues with, why I'm not a cannibal, but I will eat meat is because I observe in nature that animals have not organized to say that killing another animal is wrong.
Oh,
and
that's so mean. They don't have the ability. Come on.
Well, I mean, that's the cue to me. I mean,
that's the cue that they didn't raise their hand and say, "Stop oppressing us."
Well, no, not. I mean, not.
Maybe
to
they
each other,
did, and they
that
speak a different language.
Well, but they eat. I've seen all animals eat. I've seen a lot of animals eat other animals.
Okay.
And so
they're wrong too.
Well, I'm not. I'm not
unique, and most vegans will not deny that humans are unique. It's not that we equate, or many of us equate humans with all other animals, because we do see ourselves in this unique position that we have this choice.
Yeah, I'm not. Let me make it clear. I'm not defending my position as a meat eater on logic. I mean, I'm not. I can concede that. I understand that. I understand that. I don't think that he just asked me a question.
What about global warming?
And I answered it.
Or
climate change. I mean, look.
Emissions.
I personally, don't eat factory farmed meat.
Okay.
I don't eat it that much, but I don't, so I try and avoid eating meat that is, inhumanely raised or that also contributes in that fashion. I mean, I don't eat that much meat. I was asked a question why I, don't, sit across from someone having a hamburger and go like, how could you eat that human being? And I answered it but he was not satisfied. Like he wanted to prove that there was some type of, that it was illogical. And I think it is illogical that I protect my kids as opposed to, the kids down the street that I don't know. I mean,
did you guys read that study about plants crying? That's what got me.
Oh my God.
I couldn't handle it. I was like,
gotta eat something.
I know. I was like, what are you doing?
I mean, but honestly,
they don't have brains or central nervous systems. They don't feel pain.
Well, they were saying in the study otherwise. Listen, I'm not going to stop eating plant. I have to eat something.
All living animals try to protect their lives. They have, a way to protect their life, but it's not the same thing as feeling pain and crying out in pain as an animal does when.
I'm just going to say we have bigger fights to fight right now. It's not an either or. I don't eat meat. But with that being said.
Well, what if, but if that's what it is,
Jordan
if it's just if it's the capacity to pain, it's not that they feel pain, it's that the capacity to feel pain is why you shouldn't eat them. Because for instance, let's say for instance, like I say, the example I use is I have neighbors upstate who would raise a pig, and every October they would slaughter the pig and eat the pig over the course of the winter. And the pigs were very well treated. They were they were like pigs in crap, as it were. And if they felt no pain when they were killed,
which is impossible.
They're so smart.
Pigs are you could. Well, let's say that you
would you feel pain if someone slit your throat?
Well, what if I was put out? What if I was anesthetized, and then somebody?
But then you.
I'm just asking.
The point is, you wouldn't want to die.
Right.
It's like
okay.
You don't feel pain.
Well, I don't even like talking about these cases because there's such extreme outliers from the way that most meat is produced.
No, I agree, but but everybody's trying to get philosophical about it. So this is the way that you discuss it philosophically. I can tell you, plants don't want to die. Their behavior is such that the way
they also don't have thought or feeling.
I understand, but I'm trying to get to So it is just simply the existence of thoughts or feelings, not that they would actually feel pain when they are killed, or that they would even feel pain while they're alive. Because I'm saying, like, you'd still have a problem if we slaughtered pigs by raising them humanely and nicely and they had fun. And then we gave them a shot and they got knocked out cold. And then we, butchered them. You'd still have a problem with that, right?
Yes, that's a vegan position.
Well, and fish forget right away. So even though they have a central nervous system and they feel it, they forget it like 2 seconds later. So where is that in this moral picture?
I don't know. I think the research on fish behavior and intelligence is very shallow at this point.
So with all this being said, I think the reason why we have this plant-based movement right now that's growing is not because we're having these moral arguments. It's because people either want to reduce CO2 emissions or they just want to be healthier. Like my dad literally told me the other day after I've been trying to convert him for 15 years, I think I'm going to cut back on meat. I've been using this Beyond Burger because I heard it's healthier for me. It's that argument that's winning people over.
I had an Impossible Burger and I stopped eating hamburger after that because I was like,
try the Beyond one.
Why would I? Well,
whenever we talk about veganism, I feel like sometimes people get me wrong. I don't want to say that individual choices don't matter at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been a vegan for 10 years and a vegetarian for 20 and now a slightly guilty pescatarian. I think it matters a little bit. But I think the real time to sell people on the benefits of producing less meat is when if we ever take democratic control over production. And we're going to have to ramp down meat production if we want to solve climate change.
Absolutely.
And I hope, given the choice, most rational people would agree to produce less meat in exchange for saving the planet.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And that's where I'm coming from as a vegan. Not all vegans are libertarians or, and I definitely have vegan friends who are this is, an individual thing and we don't need to change the system and that's ridiculous.
No,
ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you could go back to when Nixon's Commerce Secretary, said we're going to subsidize corn and specifically corn,
right?
But to basically make meat more of a sort of an everyday commodity, and I think that's
corn, soy.
Yeah, that's a problem. But appreciate the call.
Mostly fed animals.
Yep, I agree.
So, can I make my comment about the debate real quick?
Yeah.
I do have a theory about what happened with the questioning to Bernie and Elizabeth. It seemed that when Bernie was answering the question, Elizabeth didn't really seem to be paying attention. She seemed to be looking down most of the time. And then when the moderator then directed her question to Warren, she seemed to just answer kind of this default pre-planned answer.
But the moderator, the problem was the question from the moderator, because Bernie said, I did not say that. And then the moderator said, how did you react when he said that?
Right.
And as if
and it felt like to me that Elizabeth may have been on autopilot at that point, or she was thinking this is
the moderator
what we planned to do,
was on
and
autopilot.
Now I'm going to do that.
The moderator was on
autopilot. The moderator was very
scripted.
scripted, by the way.
He had
if you
online
noticed how scripted she was.
He said that a woman couldn't be president, and I disagreed. That was the same thing in her statement, and she answered the exact same way.
Right. I think she was.
She didn't listen to what Bernie said or the.
Well, no, I think,
or the moderator.
No, I think she knew that was Bernie's reply, and I think she was saying, "This is my story. I'm going to reiterate my story, and that's it." And she was, she was on message. It was the moderator, and I appreciate the call. Thanks, Melissa. It was the moderator who should have been able on the fly to rewrite her script and say, okay, Bernie denies that he said that. Why don't you explain to us how that exchange went?
Right.
If you say, or do you accept his denial? That would have been the way to ask that if you were a functioning inquisitor.
It was it Vox or I forgot who it was, did the winners and losers, and they actually brought Bernie in as a winner, which I actually don't think was true at all. But I mean, I don't think he lost the debate. I just don't think he was the winner of the debate. With that being said, they also said that she was the winner. And from the get-go, I don't know how many of you felt this way. That moderator from the Des Moines Register was so scripted. You could hear her like reading it off the paper. Yep. And that's just, I'm sorry. I say what you will about Megyn Kelly, whatever. The way that she handled those primary debates, especially in that one moment, you know, there's a reason why people who host combative shows host these debates. They kind of know how to maneuver these personalities.
Right. They wanted to bring in someone from Iowa, and I don't know if you're going to find anybody like that in local news anywhere, frankly. All right, let's do some IMs. Then we got to get out of here. Folks, if you've been hanging on the phone, we're not going to get to you. There's a ton of you. So sorry.
My fault.
Brock from VA. Sam Klobuchar. I'm proud to remember the name of the great progressive woman, Naomi Konk.
What?
They're making fun of the fact that I can't remember anything. Waterboat from Kashmir. Since August, I've been kind of obsessed with foreign policy. No one comes close to Bernie. Obviously, he's good on Kashmir. His no BS statement literally changed the discourse in India within 24 hours. This week, many people across India are holding free Kashmir posters. I can't emphasize how incredible this is. It's not just Kashmir. The biggest elephant in the room is our Asia-Pacific strategy started by Obama. Can't imagine anyone other than Bernie turning it around. Hint, low-yield nukes, hypersonic medium-range weapons are not for Russia, and China knows it. There was a turn, and this is where I found out about this, but it predated Obama. I can't remember what it was. I got held over in Long Beach after I did shot Marin's show, and they were looking for volunteers. And they offered like $1,200. And I literally jumped out of my seat and ran to the front of the plane and said, I don't care how long I got to stay for $1,200.
Yeah.
And they took us off the plane. They put us in a hotel like down at Long Beach or somewhere down there where all the ships are. And there is it was either a battleship or I think it was a battleship. And you could go take a tour of it. And I was walking around, I had nothing to do because I had to kill half a day. And I took a tour. And this guy was like showing where our fleet was. And they said, we repositioned in the Pacific at the end of the Bush administration. And we reoriented. And I was like, wait a second, that explains the TPP. There is a whole reorienting towards China.
Yep.
And
you saw the breaking news just happen.
What's that?
Is it still on here? There's Trump. Hang on. Give me a second. I have to open up my breaking news. President Trump signs the first stage of a trade deal with China after nearly 2 years of fraught negotiations and a punishing trade war.
There you go. I wonder what the details of that will be. We'll see.
It's going to be on a Ritz-Carlton Pyongyang stationery.
Someone asked if it was USS Ohio. I think it was. I'm not sure. Heather, the Corey Gardner you played yesterday had a feint of femdom S&M. You small little pig. Pay, Corey. Pay pig, Corey. JJ Cool. Hey, Sam, I have to say, I think you've been a tiny bit soft on Warren. Achieving progressive public policy is always incredibly difficult. Even in the best case scenario, unity is fundamental. For her to be willing to divide us for self-interest cuts into her dedication to the policies. I mean, I would bet you anything that if Bernie wins, that Warren will have an offer, at least in the cabinet.
I just want to say to that point, all the people who are defending Warren on this thing about, saying be nice on Twitter, it wasn't the Bernie bros who started this.
Yes, exactly.
It was Warren who did
Of course.
this.
I think it's a strategy.
A nice thing to do.
I think it's a strategy.
And so I think it's a strategy by people who don't care about that left unity that we're told is so important and not tweeting out snake emojis.
It's unity when it's you, not when it's...
Debate, folks. When they go low, we go high.
People wanted the unity because they wanted it to congeal around Warren. I mean, this is like it's a campaign.
It's the same Hillary move, which is hysterical because she's not the one who's going to win the nomination. So at least Hillary was like, listen, guys, I lined everything up with the DNC. I'm going to win. Right. You're going to make it difficult, but I'm going to make it so that I win. So you might as well fall in line now, or we're going to force it. Hillary, she doesn't have that, Warren. Right. In the last 10 minutes, this is what just happened. New York Times reports, people familiar with the exchange on stage said Mrs. Warren walked over and told Mr. Sanders that she was concerned that during the debate, he had mischaracterized a conversation they had in 2018 about whether a woman would win the presidency. She had accused him of saying that a woman could not. He has denied the remark. Appearing frustrated, Mr. Sanders asked to discuss the matter at a different time, said the people who insisted on anonymity, to discuss a sensitive private conversation. He pointed his finger toward her, then back at himself before turning around and walking away. So her team went on the record and said this is what happened. That's what is appearing in this New York Times story.
Yeah, they're trying to push this.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
Bingo.
Let them.
Right.
We're still going to win.
Right. Well, they're trying to push it because the Sanders people are just basically like, talk to the hand.
Yep.
We're sticking with our plan.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to get off message. And they're trying to get Sanders off message. And it's not going to work.
I really hope that they're investing in field as well, Warren.
I hope they are. For some sake. All right.
I'm joking. Like, this is where they're putting all their money right now.
Yeah. Ayn Rand, Paul Ryan. The poopy pants gun girl should know better than try and debate someone smarter and hotter than her. Spaghetti Western civilization. You'll always look like a teen in Chucky's tea and black rim glasses and hanging out with millennials to us, Sam. Thank you, I think. Colorado guy. Another lesson I think we should all take from Warren's shady half-measure hit job is that in the general, someone like Trump will be able to make her look like a fool with something that's ill-planned and not thought out. Bernie didn't scorch the earth with Warren. Trump will. That to me is the most salient point.
Right.
I think like just it's bad politics. Like I don't get so ruffled by this thing. I don't think it is as divisive as people. I think it's just bad politics.
I tweeted something out the day that supposed memo leaked, and so I just saw the Warren people, freak out, and I tweeted something really simple out. I love Warren; she's my second choice, but if this is the way she's reacting towards a now debunked, at least at that time, memo, how is she going to react to Trump? Pause. I got 3 texts from Warren people, literally yelling at me in all caps. You should apologize. You're dividing the movement by saying this.
Oh my God, cry me a river.
And then I found out they did the same thing to some other people on the Sanders campaign, like get your people in order. So,
and it's a double standard. They're allowed to attack Bernie
Yeah.
and call him divisive and factional, but if anyone says any even objectively true facts about Warren, they're an asshole.
This was I think they miscalculated on this, and they're trying to this whole handshake thing.
Yep.
I think that was also manufactured.
Oh, totally.
And
petty.
It's like they're trying to drive a story. It's just that it's bad. It doesn't work.
No.
Like what they're doing is it is petty. It's like it's just this is small ball and it's not effective. Because first off, like, and I think she's trying to come off as strong, but it's not. That's not what it's coming off as. No. And, if she wanted to come off strong, he put a hand out and he should have slapped it away. But the problem is that she was coming to him.
That's right.
Magnum's Magnaper, but also criminal landscaper because he was cutting down trees dangerously. Interesting.
He also says that Hyde guy, if you look at
up 3.5%, and Bernie's unfavorable is up 3%. Not a huge shift, but more positive for Warren than I expected. I would wait and see.
A new
what
poll
happens.
just dropped. Marquette Law School. Now, they didn't do it in the last 24 hours, so keep that in mind. But once again, Warren, actually Buttigieg is now below Trump by 2%, but Warren Trump beats Warren by 3%. And everybody else, Sanders is up 1%, Biden is up 4%. So nationally.
Rick from Florida. Hey, Sam, love the interview with Nathan J. Robinson last week. I got turned on to his work because of a long-form critique he made of Sam Harris called Being Mr. Reasonable on his publication Current Affairs that anybody who is even slightly sympathetic to him at this point owes themselves to read. It's so good that Sam Harris hasn't even acknowledged it or responded to it by calling it a smear from a dishonest bad faith actor. 10 flushes. Bernie Sanders, no surrender, 4 days a week, 3-day bender. K-Fried Comrade, interview with California 5th candidate Amar Kampa Najjar dropped on Monday, where he turned full mask-off conservative. Amar ran as a Justice Democrat in 2018 and is now saying he'll be the most conservative person in San Diego.
What?
In the interview, he defends Eddie Gallagher and suggests using bunker busters on the border tunnels to stop illegal immigration. Guy's gone full psycho.
Whoa.
Weird.
What?
Justice Democrat doing
No,
more vetting.
he was pretty supported by the Progressive. I think he had an OR endorsement. He was controversial because his relative, his grandfather, was a terrorist.
Weird.
Yeah, so that was very controversial at the time.
For who?
Libby the Liberal. Do you guys know who Greg O'Lear is? He's a novelist and big Russian interference guy online, and according to him, the Mueller report makes it clear that Russian IC was helping the Sanders campaign. Either Bernie didn't realize this and is an idiot, or he did realize it and played along and is a traitor. What is your reaction to this, given that the Mueller report did mention Sanders in this context? I mean, I have no doubt that to the extent, but you know, I don't know what the Russian interference was, if it was determinate in the general election, and obviously it was not determinate in the primary. But I have no doubt that there were bots out there. Yeah. But I also have no doubt that like the Bernie Sanders campaign may have had times where they're like, what's going on here? But there's no reason to believe that they would be any more privy to that information than the Clinton campaign would. I don't think that I don't think he knew about it contemporaneously, what was going on.
There were probably also Clinton people around the Bernie campaign. Like, this is how campaigns function. I'm not saying with international interference. Well, actually, you know, historically, probably there has been quite a bit of international interference.
Yeah. Vegan Evangelical. If Bernie wins the nomination and loses to Trump, the Warren campaign has given him the Hillary defense. Please acknowledge that you have received my IMs and emails about meat. In fact, Warren's attacks could be used as an excuse to any legislative failures of a Sanders administration. I'm not sure I followed that, but I don't know if I've gotten your emails about me. We got to check. Martha McSally. Darn it. It's Sally McAllister.
Martha McSally.
No.
Martha.
Guess again.
No, it's a senator. Wait,
it was right in front of your face. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
What is it?
Martha McSally.
What
it
about
is Martha McSally?
Yeah.
That's her real name.
Yeah, she's a senator from Arizona.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, you got a mental block on that name.
I can never get her name right.
That's hysterical.
It's weird. If you can't get my name right, at least give me a good nickname, like Ashley Airhead. Maybe something like Sally Mutua. Maybe you can expect from a Gen Xer. Binder Dad. Martha McSally. MM. Binder Dad. Matt's doomed podcast, post-debate podcast, was blocked by YouTube last night because CNN saw their name in the YouTube description from Matt's Twitter feed. Because Team YouTube allowed a CNN copy strike on the scheduled yet still unaired live stream event somehow, I'll only be able to go live on Periscope and Twitch tonight because YouTube has disabled my live streaming abilities. Eesh. That is ridiculous. But they will do that with CNN. That's why we don't do it on YouTube, because they did that to us, our backup channel.
Wow.
Well, that stinks. But I have got some. I got some other news. Tomorrow, the Fun Half will be hosted by Old Matt. Matt Binder will be hosting the Fun Half tomorrow. There you go. So people can get a taste of Doomed and then head over and check it out.
It's like a flashback to 5 years ago.
Indeed. Matt from Mass. I'm not mad, Elizabeth. I'm just disappointed. At 2, Warren? At 2?
Exactly.
Also, re-veganism. I think it's presumptuous to assume all of us don't want to die. Go jogging. Jamie, you should start a podcast called The Progressive View with Nomiki, Anna, Emma, Crystal, and other progressive talk show hosts. Love the show. Left is best.
Do you think that like all of us progressive women actually like each other?
Guys, you should see the fights they have at the commissary.
In a big house and have pillow fights every night.
Carlos Danger. I bet you that would do well too. Carlos Danger. Sam, my wife and I are expecting our first child in April, and I'm in charge of getting the birth playlist together.
What?
So
Is this a thing?
Better than gender reveals, I guess.
Yeah. So far, I have your debates with Walter Block, your multiple takedowns of Jimmy Dore, and the Funhouse song. What else am I missing? I want this kid coming out left-handed. Plus, when will your book, Blaming the Electorate, drop? Because I'll be there for bedtime reading. Left is best. Appreciate what you do.
Hilarious.
Peterist. I saw hashtag Never Warren trending all night after the debate. Seems a bit overwrought. Seems fake and bot-driven, actually, artificially sowing discord. I mean, who would react to this sequence of events so strongly? Seems like weak tea. I'm a bro in favor of Bernie, but it's rather obvious that both Warren and Bernie are good, actually. Even though it's clearly total BS, how do you think Bernie ought to react to this weird phenomenon of criticism of his online supporters being his opponent's go-to strategy? I mean, I think the most that he can do is stay on message.
Yeah.
And not respond.
Don't you know, I think because he's been through this before, they've learned just don't engage. It's just going to grow.
Yep.
But the Never Warren thing is interesting. I don't think it's bots. I think people are extremely upset about this, naturally so, because it was, you know, the snakes are showing up and the emojis. You know, there's some hyper response now from like surrogates saying, Bernie surrogates. I don't know if they're told to do this to not gang up on her because it does reinforce that Bernie bro narrative.
Yep.
But you know, at the end of the day, like, I don't know, should she feel the fire? Yeah. So I'm not saying that's the strategy, but you can't control people. You can't control a movement.
Right. Congressional baseball fan. Hi there. Don't mind me. Just sitting here with Cory Booker's hot cup of coffee. Ever since he broke up with his campaign, she hasn't heard a thing from him. She's been lonely, and we started talking, and things progressed. And what can I say? Now we're Facebook official. By the way, he was right. She is smoking hot. Hot cup of coffee? Huh? I don't get it. Steve from Minneapolis. Sam, can I get a shofar for my belated birthday? Yes, you can. And also, hopefully the Chapo guys didn't destroy all your toothpicks. Left is best. All right, 3 more IMs. Trafficone. Imagine making a wild claim that's only remotely impressive if you apply Buzzard's mathematical limits and you get the math wrong. Butter. How many animals are killed by combines in field? How many mice, rabbits, baby deer? Is the life of a mouse worth the same as a cow or a pig? Almost all farming, except for maybe in your backyard, kills animals. You may kill more animals' lives as a vegan. And I mean, it's quite possible you will kill a lot of animals as you plow fields.
More.
No.
More.
Even if that's garbage, because do you know how much grain it takes to produce a pound of meat?
Right.
That's way more than if you just eat it yourself.
Yep.
And the final IM of the day. What do y'all think the chances are of the DNC rigging the convention against Bernie a la 2016? There was no convention ever rigged against Bernie. And so their chances of doing that, I mean, what is...
I don't agree with that. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, we'll have this argument.
Of course the convention was rigged against. They had noise cancelers. They put people... I got up and I went to the bathroom. My seat was taken. And I literally, because I had a press pass, it was the only way I could get back to my seat. Of course it was rigged. Sorry.
Rigged implies...
Well, and there's more to it, yeah.
I mean, I just think rigged is the wrong term.
Even Elizabeth Warren said it was rigged.
Well, yes, Martin O'Malley said it was rigged, and he was the first one to use that term during the debates. I mean, the debates were scheduled to protect Hillary Clinton.
Of course.
There's no doubt about that. But the idea of rigged means that, like, there's no way for Bernie to win, and that's not true.
Iowa... Conveniently, they knew that just let's talk about caucus rooms, right? In 2008 and 2012, 2008, the caucus rooms were double the size of the ones in 2016. And in 2016, just being there on the ground, officials were complaining that they moved them to smaller rooms because people could not, there were lines out the door, and at 7 p.m. sharp, people said you can't come in. And so they were stuffing people into rooms, just, the coin tosses. I mean, these are things that came down to opinions.
Let me put it this way. If Bernie had started his campaign a year earlier, do you think he would have won?
No.
You don't?
No. These were objective opinions of people that were controlled in the DNC, without a doubt. When it came down to...
You don't think he could have won under any circumstances if he had actually built a campaign before?
No.
Interesting. All right. Well, we'll have to continue this conversation. Sorry. All right, folks.
Stay tuned.
See you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101